There's few other series that match the scale, intensity, and fun of Hunter x Hunter. The series might be on another hiatus at the time of this video, but some recent updates portend an even bigger expansion to the universe. But before that, there was a boy named Gon, and a test that would change his life forever. Our protagonist, Gon Freaks, is just some kid living an idyllic life on the beautiful Whale Island. He isn't an ordinary kid. This is a shonen manga after all. His extraordinary talents are demonstrated when he reels in a monstrous fish and carries it back to town for his aunt Mito. He wasn't catching this fish for fun though. It was part of a bargain for him to take the hunter exam. Mito's hesitation to let her nephew go isn't just because of his young age, but because of family history. Gon's father is also a hunter, a fact Mito kept from him intentionally. Gon's adventurous spirit got the best of him, and he was nearly mauled by a fox bear. A strange man saves him at the last minute, killing the angry creature. After making sure the kid was okay, the man punches Gon with his full strength, then berates him for disobeying his parents. Gon admits that his parents died in a boating accident, which stops the stranger in his tracks. The peace is short-lived when the fox bear's cub springs from the bushes and Gon immediately picks it up. The man watches the child before him spitefully holding the fox bear cub. It prompts him to ask if Gon knows a man named Jing. Turns out the stranger Kite is a student of Gon's still alive father. Jing is an incredibly prolific hunter, and Kite can see the same adventurous spirit in Gon. In the present, Gon visits the same fox bear and his other woodland friends as a final goodbye. He then returns to his still angry Aunt Mito, who finishes filling in the blanks about his deadbeat dad. Gon is an empathetic kid and understands how his aunt feels about losing another family member to the world of hunters. But he wants to be able to hunt down his father, and he also knows she's not quite telling the truth. The next week, Gon makes his way to leave Whale Island, with its inhabitants all sending off. Even Aunt Mito is there to send him off with a proper, loving farewell. He waves goodbye to his village and sets off on his journey. The boat ride eventually hits rough seas. Only 3 of the boat's passengers, including Gon, aren't wrecked by seasickness. He's able to figure out a huge storm is coming and senses minor environmental changes, which impresses the ship's captain. The crew warns the passengers about the storm. All but 3 jump on the lifeboats, the ones unaffected by the seasickness. The other 2 remaining passengers are Leorio, a suit-clad clone of Lupin III, and Kurapika, who's just been chilling in the background. The captain casually asks the 3 why they want to take the hunter exam. Gon is much too enthusiastic and open. However, this informal interview turns out to be part of the first test of the exam. All the passengers that left on lifeboats are all dropouts, and failing to answer the screening questions will be an automatic fail as well. Kurapika breaks the wall of silence first. He reveals that he's the last of the Kurta clan, and he wants to apprehend those that massacred his family. The revenge mission is met with a scoff from Leorio, who appears to have less noble reasons. The 2 trade insults and things start to get physical right away as a crew member is thrown off the boat. All 3 prospective hunters immediately rush to help. Gon is able to pull the man back up on board, while Leorio and Kurapika keep them both from sliding overboard. The 2 older test takers reconcile, granting them final approval from the captain, and they continue their journey to the test. Sometime later, the boat docks and the captain gives directions to the next stage. He gives special attention to Gon, who is also being monitored. The directions lead to a sketchy alleyway blocked by a giant wall and a mysterious old woman. To pass, all 3 must collectively answer a single question. Answering slowly, separately, or picking the wrong answer option means immediate failure. Another contestant arrives at the same barrier, giving the trio a chance to see the game before participating. They're taken aback by the subjective nature of the question, and Leorio's hot-headed attitude flares up again after the contestant is allowed to pass. Despite this, Kurapika votes for their tests to continue. Leorio disagrees with this vote and nearly bashes the woman with a wood plank. Still pass. The path behind the woman was a trap, meaning the previous contestant failed. Saying nothing, like the 3, the real point of the test was following their own moral code, rather than a correct action. The next location is a seemingly endless forest littered with signs warning of beasts. The trio finally reached an isolated house and walk right into a hostage situation. Kurapika and Leorio attempt to strike the imposing beast, but it flees away quickly. Gon's extreme athleticism and deep connection with nature lets him easily start tracking the beast, with Leorio and Kurapika attempting to keep up. Gon catches up and is able to thwack the magical talking beast with his fishing rod and causes it to drop the woman it was holding hostage. As Gon is chased by the enraged beast, Kurapika checks up on the woman. He recognizes her as a beast by the markings on her face. Gon is coming to a similar realization in the woods, revealing that he knows the beast in front of him is not the one he chased earlier. Turns out they've been chasing a whole family, and they're all impressed by their individual skill sets. The three pass with flying colors, and the screening process is officially over. Gon, Leorio, and Kurapika are led to the exam hall. Hidden behind a restaurant facade, the trio enjoy a meal together on the elevator ride to the hall and muse about their chances at receiving a license. The elevator opens to an exam room where the trio are greeted with a packed hall of other examinees. Considering the amount of effort the scanning process was, it's crazy to see how many people are still vying for licenses. A cheerful guy named Tanpa informs them that there's over 400 applicants in the room. It's his 35th go-around with the exam, so he can give a rundown to the rookies. There's a colorful cast of characters, but the most interesting is a clown man that has cut off another competitor's forearms. His name is Hisoka, a returnee from the previous year who was disqualified for attacking the examiner. Tanpa keeps up a friendly facade and gives his new allies a drink. However, he's a little scamp and laced the drinks with a laxative. His plan is foiled by Gon, who can somehow taste the flavorless powder. Another examinee, number 99 Killua, is tired of waiting and asks Tanpa for a drink. Much like Gon, he also knows there's something up with the beverages, but he pounds back 5 of them. Before Tanpa can figure out why this kid isn't dehydrated out of his mind, an alarm sounds. The exam is underway. The crowd follows Sato's. The casual walk progressively speeds up into a dead sprint. Some participants fare better than others. Killua, for example, simply skateboards around those falling behind. He joins up with Gon and the gang, excited to see another kid around his age. It's also revealed that Leorio is 19, which is the biggest plot twist of the whole series. After 60 kilometers, all 404 participants are still going strong. The first to drop out happens at 80 kilometers thanks to Tanpa and the other repeat testers. Examiner Sato's gives everyone a tiny break before a daunting ascent on the endless staircase behind him. As more examinees run out of stamina, Leorio and Kurapika stay strong, which surprises the Kurta lad. He tries to probe Leorio for his true motives for taking the exam, since a man motivated by greed would have dropped out by now. Leorio admits he's doing it to get tuition money so he can become a doctor and save lives. In return, Kurapika reveals the more grisly details about his clan's massacre. 37 people have dropped. Gon and Killua are going stronger than ever, having caught up with Sato's. The two kids bond over their motivations to become hunters. Before they know it, a bright light denotes the exit. This is a survival test, since there's wild beasts at every turn. Sato's himself is accused of being a swamp beast as well by an examinee, but is quieted permanently by Hisoka's card deck. The remaining 311 follow the examiner into the dangerous foggy jungle. One quickly finds out just how dangerous this swamp is after a giant tortoise monster eats him. Several other examinees are picked off one by one in various horrific ways. A small group, including Leorio and Kurapika, all happen to find a clearing. Unfortunately for them, a bloodthirsty Hisoka is also there. Those that dare speak against him are slaughtered. Hisoka has quickly become the primary threat in this dangerous jungle. Kurapika quickly splits, and Leorio stays to fight. He tries to land a hit with a stick, but it's a surprise fishing rod smack that distracts Hisoka. The Pennywise wannabe isn't distracted enough. He sends Leorio flying with a solid punch. but now he has a new fixation with Gon. The kid thinks it was just part of the test, so he's content to leave the clearing with a stunned Kurapika. About 150 prospective hunters reach the end of Phase 1. Phase 2 is in the hands of gourmet hunters Buhara and Menchi. All participants must cook a dish that satisfies both judges. The first course, Buhara's pick, is a whole roast pig, hunted, cooked, and served by each individual. Gon naturally scores his pigs quickly, while his peers struggle a bit. Soon, Buhara is presented with a horde of pigs to taste. 70 applicants pass, which upsets the snobbish Menchi. She chooses hand-molded sushi, which no participant has as her dish of choice. In a haste, the remaining participants struggle to catch the fish and cook the sushi. Not one person impresses Menchi. Not even Hanzo, who actually molded something resembling sushi. Everyone has failed. She will reprimand anyone who argues against her decision. That is, until the judging committee descends upon the testing grounds. Chairman Netero tells her to re-administer the test and participate in it since she performed an unfair test. The redo involves catching eggs off the side of the dangerous ravine to make boiled eggs. Menchi leads the charge in diving off the cliff, but Gon and the others soon follow. By the end, the stubborn gourmet hunter has changed her ways and passes 42 examinees. In order to reach Phase 3 of the exam, the participants travel in luxury on the judging committee's blimp. All the participants take the opportunity to rest, unsure of how many phases lie ahead, except for Gon and Killua. The two take a moment to bond, and Killua gives a glimpse into his past. He's the prodigal son of a family of mercenaries, eager to forge his own path away from their overbearing grasp. Chairman Netero overhears the conversation and immediately takes a liking to them. He offers them an opportunity to immediately own their licenses on the spot with a simple game. Steal the ball before the ship touches down. Killua is the first to accept the terms, using his assassin skills to throw off Netero. He fails, and Gon tries to tag in, but the chairman is just too quick. The game goes on for a while before a frustrated Killua taps out. Gon chooses to stick around. While Killua is upset they couldn't steal the ball away from Netero, Gon simply chooses to just get Netero to move his arm. He starts the game back up with Netero while Killua takes out his frustration with a chill murder or two. The one-on-one game is even more tense, and Netero even starts to falter against Gon's seemingly endless stamina. Eventually, the chairman's arm budges and Gon relishes in sweet victory. He doesn't get to rest for long. The blimp reaches Phase 3's test site all too quickly. The participants are released to the top of Trick Tower, with 3 days to reach the bottom by any means necessary. Considering the name of the test is Trick Tower, you know there's some deadly tricks hiding around everywhere. One guy tries to do a solo climb down the tower, but that quickly results in his demise. Over half of the participants follow suit through various traps on the top of the building. Eventually, someone finds a trapdoor, properly kickstarting the remaining test takers' descent. Gon, Killua, Leorio, and Kurapika are forced to team up with Tonpa when they land on the path of majority rules, where everyone must vote the same. Naturally, Tonpa screws up at the first opportunity and costs them the team time. The same thing happens at the next doorway. Regardless of the building tensions, the group enters through the door and takes them to a fighting ring with 5 hooded figures facing them. Each one is a dangerous convict with a different challenge for each examinee in the chamber. A majority of the examinees must win to move further down the tower. For each forfeit or each hour they stall an examinee, the examiner Lippo will shorten their life sentences by a year. First up is Tonpa, against the lead beefcake. Naturally, he forfeits and put his teammates at an immediate disadvantage. Killua breaks up the stalling argument by bringing up the benefits of Tonpa's forfeit. His opponent was an ex-mercenary that would have tortured him until the 72 hours ran out. An immediate forfeit just saved time. The argument is quelled, and Gon volunteers to go next. His test is keeping a candle flame going. He must choose between one with a short wick and one with a long wick. Despite his teammates' attempts to make him consider that his opponent might rig the test, Gon chooses the long-wicked candle. His teammates are proved right when Gon's candle, which was covered in oil, lights up and his opponent reveals that he has extra candles. Despite the odds, Gon doesn't give up. He sets down his nub of a candle and speedily blows out the prisoners before he can react. With the two teams in a dead heat, Kurapika steps up as the third participant. His opponent is a hulking mass murderer proposing a hand-to-hand fight to the death. Killua recognizes that the prisoner is a phony, but Kurapika does not, which is why he's enraged by a mockery of the Phantom Troupe's trademark tattoo on his back. He nearly beats the guy to death, but since the game was to the death, the challenge remains at a standstill. Killua offers to do the job and Leorio tries to incite a vote to move on, but both attempts fail. Elsewhere, Hisoka becomes the first participant to finish Trick Tower by brutally dismembering his own prisoner adversary with his own scythe. Pressure for the group of 5 to make a choice is compounded, with the prisoner still lying on the stage. A fourth prisoner named Larute chooses to take bets on if he's alive or dead. Hours left to escape is her currency of choice. Leorio's hot temper causes him to take charge and wager 10 hours in favor of the prisoner still living. The prisoner checks and confirms he's just out cold, granting Leorio extra hours. It does prove problematic though, since the guy can just run out the clock by sleeping. The guy is just playing possum at the insistence of Larute. He's woken up when Leorio throws him off a cliff to prove he's out cold. This costs the examinees 40 hours, and Leorio loses 10 more by being too lustful for the manga. Leorio seals everyone's fate of imprisonment in the tower by losing a game of rock, paper, scissors. With another loss, the team's morale is at an all-time low. Killua volunteers to finish off their opponents, but after the last prisoner reveals himself, Leorio tries to hold back. This guy is an actual prolific mass murderer, Jonas the Dissector, who is more than ready to dismember again. Killua isn't afraid of him though, and rips out his still beating heart and crushes it in the blink of an eye. This serves as the third victory for the examinees, though they must sit in a confinement for 50 hours thanks to Leorio. After spending 8 hours on various challenges, the participants have only an hour left to escape. Once again, they're stalled by a 4-1 vote on a door. Naturally, Tonpa gets blamed and chewed out by Leorio, but he actually wants to escape as well. Gon was accidentally the stray vote. Leorio is much kinder to the kid, which, par for the course, causes tensions to flare with Tonpa. The door opens regardless, and the group reaches the final forked path. They must choose between a long path for everyone that would take 45 hours, or a short path for 3 that would take a mere minutes. Ideological debates around, and with less than 5 minutes on the clock, the chances of any of them passing are slim. Gon, Killua, and Kurapika join the 18 other participants with just 30 seconds remaining. Surprisingly, Tonpa and Leorio emerge shortly after, right before the door closes. Gon smashed the wall between the two paths and granted them victory. 25-ish participants reach the final 2 phases. The penultimate phase is a hunt. Each person in the order of their escape must draw a card out of the box. On each card is a number corresponding to the badge of another participant. Their target. A participant must get 6 points. Keeping their own badge or capturing the rivals are worth the most points. Gon will have a problem though. His target is the terrifying clown man Hisoka. The participants are dropped on Zevil Island, with 1 week to complete their task. One by one, in the same order they picked badges, they disappeared into the dense forest. Gon immediately starts tracking Hisoka with Garret, the examinee that drew his number, in hot pursuit. As Gon lies in wait and plans how to steal Hisoka's badge, he bears witness to another hunter stalking and subduing his prey with a poisoned arrow. Gon decides that an animalistic approach is the best course of action, and plans to snag the badge with his trusty fishing rod. He tries to practice his aim on various targets, trying to find the best equivalent to his human target. By the end of day 2, his hands are bloody from gripping his fishing rod. The blood attracts some weirdly carnivorous butterflies, which Gon surmises he can track Hisoka with. He is still human, and probably got banged up in the tower or while running into the forest. His instincts are correct, and he finds a strangely off-guard Hisoka. He knows he's being watched, and elects not to play the waiting game. Gon panics, believing his cover was blown, but another examinee with a death wish pops up instead. With Hisoka focused on murder, Gon waits for the perfect opportunity to land his catch. Unfortunately, the window for the snatch is cut short by a flurry of pins from the largely absent Pinhead clone, fatally wounding Hisoka's opponent. He and the Pinhead are apparently allies, emphasized more by Hisoka's quiet amusement when the guy removes his pins from his face, taking off his disguise. With 6 points acquired, the mysterious man burrows underground while Hisoka continues to hunt. Elsewhere, Leorio and Tonpa are in another stand, despite neither being the other's target. They come to an uneasy alliance when Leorio offers medical assistance in exchange for information on his target. Number 246 is Ponzu, the one Gon saw with a poison arrow earlier. She's shifty and works with a variety of tough, making her a tough get. Leorio is satisfied with this information and reaches to get his medicine. He's promptly knocked down and his badge is stolen. Tonpa and his allies switch cards before laying this trap. Leorio was his target from the start. Victoriously, he runs away before Kurapika clotheslines him to the ground and takes back Leorio's badge, and that of his conspirator. Tonpa was Kurapika's target, so he currently sits at the 6-point threshold. Leorio, who took the extra badge, sits at 4. The two depart to find Ponzu. Their trek to find Leorio's target is abruptly halted when Hisoka decides on his next targets. He stops Leorio and Kurapika in a clearing to politely ask them for their badges. The two try to discern what game the Clown Man is playing. All three are presumably unaware of Gon monitoring the situation from the tree canopy. Kurapika's bargaining skills and the revelation that neither is his target grants them their freedom from Hisoka. Gon watches him walk away as he panics over what his next move should be. He realizes that Hisoka hasn't gone too far. He sensed him, as depicted in one of the scariest manga panels not drawn by Junji Ito. The bloodthirsty man continues onward with Gon slinking behind. Another participant unfortunately falls in Hisoka's path as the two fight. Gon finally steals the 44 badge. He sprints away, but runs into the examinee hunting him and loses his badge. It seems like Gon is down for the count until Hisoka emerges from the fields, holding the guy's decapitated head. The clown is proud of Gon's cunning and nabbed his own target, and thus gifts him the 44 badge. Gon is still paralyzed from the guy's dart for the next 10 days. Killua is still hunting his target, who is content playing the waiting game with Tween. He and his cohorts obviously underestimated him, as proven when Killua somehow steals one of their badges in the split second between a punch. He reveals this after a Michael Myers style sit-up and then proceeds to taunt the three very scared examinees with his creepy fingernail. He's able to get the badge of his target, then throws the extraneous badges of his friends with horrifying super strength. Now the only one of the 4 protagonists without 6 points is Leorio. With only 1 day left, he's running out of time to find Ponzu. Gon joins them, having beat the 10-day paralysis. They, mostly Kurapika, brainstorm and plot how likely it would be for Leorio to find the badge in their limited time frame until they hear a sound from a cave. They wait until nightfall before entering and find an interior littered with snakes. They find Leorio covered in multiple bites and Ponzu, alerting them to how screwed they are. A wall of snakes blocks the exit thanks to a snake charming participant who is now deceased. There's no chance to leave. The vipers swarm around the chamber as Ponzu continues to inspire despair. Turns out the body of her target, the snake charmer, is also a trap since he's pumped full of wasp neurotoxin that can cause a severe allergic reaction. Listening to Ponzu's monologue kept Gon and Kurapika off guard enough for the vipers to start flooding the chamber. Leorio plays the hero and takes dozens more viper bites. He loses consciousness and Gon orders Kurapika to take him away. He reaches to touch the snake charmer's body and is immediately swarmed by snakes. Miraculously, he finds an antidote to the bites. As Leorio is treated, Gon bargains sleeping gas for her target's badge. He'll break the vial and release the gas to take out the snakes, with 5 minutes, or 9 minutes and 44 seconds for Gon, to escape without passing out. The group flees at maximum speed. All 5, including Ponzu, are officially finalists. And that's the end of Hunter x Hunter's first arc. The first arc of Hunter x Hunter introduced us to the wild, wacky, and dangerous world of hunters. Gon, our precious little protagonist, and his 3 new allies officially made it through the 4 stages of the Hunter exam, but the final stage still looms large ahead of them. There's a few shady figures running around as well that become much bigger problems soon. With the second to last phase of the exam officially finished, there are 9 eligible finalists. Apart from Gon, Killua, Kurapika, and Leorio, there's a few more sinister faces as well. Hisoka and the pin-headed Guitarker. 6 of these finalists are first-timers, which according to Netero is a once-a-decade phenomenon. Considering the guy is over 100, he's got a decent grasp on how unique the situation is. He decides to interview all of the finalists to get a feel for this year's crop. While waiting, Gon finally unpacks his feelings about Hisoka doing him a favor to Kurapika. It's the first time he's expressed an explicitly negative emotion, though it's a fleeting moment. Elsewhere, the clown in question is the first to be interviewed. He conveys both his bloodthirsty nature and a fixation on Gon and Killua as potential opponents. The process continues with particular focus on who intrigues each contestant and who they refuse to fight. This plays into the deciding test, a reverse battle royale. 1 win guarantees a hunter's license, meaning 8 of 9 contestants will join the prestigious ranks of hunters. The only contingency is no killing. The pairs are sorted by Netero's personal criteria. Those that left better impressions have more chances to win a fight. This upsets Killua, who is seeded for 3 fights, because his closest competitor in age is seeded for 5. Gon's first of 5 potential battles is against Hanzo. The ninja delays the fight with a boastful monologue, but he's ready to smack his tiny opponent down at any moment. The stubborn as ever Gon refuses to cave to Hanzo and is rewarded with several more smacks. No matter how many people tell him to quit, he keeps taking beatings until he's lying near motionless on the floor. It's not quite a TKO since he still manages to shuffle to his feet. Hanzo is enraged by the kid's tenacity and threatens to break his arm. A resounding crack rattling down the halls signals that Gon is 1 arm down. Hanzo's gloating is quickly interrupted by Gon kicking him out of a handstand, demonstrating that he's still a solid threat with only 3 functioning limbs. Upset at his monologue being ruined, the ninja unsheaths a blade from his arm wrap and threatens an amputation if the kid doesn't concede defeat. Gon successfully negotiates his way out of losing a leg by wagering his potential death from blood loss. The audience of guards and fighters is left in awe, or humor in Hisoka's case, of Gon getting the upper hand, even as Hanzo reasons out why giving up now is the kid's best shot. His arguments don't work against Gon's morale. He doesn't want to be a hunter for prestige. He just wants to see his dad. Now, seeing that there's no way to persuade the kid into quitting, Hanzo forfeits. Even though Gon tries to keep the fighting going for one of them to win honorably, Hanzo shuts that down with an uppercut to the jaw. Gon is now the first participant of this cycle to win a hunter's license, though he's currently out cold. Gon eventually wakes up in a separate wing of the building with an amused Satoz ready to greet him with the good news. The examiner's mood is slightly soured by Gon's reluctance to accept his new license. He believes it wasn't earned because he failed to beat Hanzo. However, Satoz is able to lift his spirits. He reveals that Gon's father is a massive inspiration for his own work and gives the kid insight into what it means to hold the title of hunter. He gives Gon the physical license, but ensures that he can put off taking on its responsibility until he's ready. This satisfies Gon, who feels indebted to those that helped him during the exam. He has to return and watch the tournament, which is long over. The other winners are all in an orientation elsewhere. Since Gon is still recovering from his broken arm, he is exempt from going at the moment. However, he is curious about the one poor examinee that failed to pass. Killua was the one failed examinee. He broke the one explicit rule and killed his opponent, presumably with malicious intent. The preceding battles were quick. Hanzo made quick work of Pakal, and Hisoka whispered something, then forfeited to Kurapika before defeating his next opponent. Killua also forfeited to Pakal, and Leorio opted to postpone in order for the injured Bodoro to heal. This leaves Killua and the Pinhead clone Guitarker on the field, a challenger that Killua deems worthy. He approaches the man but halts when the man begins pulling out the pins again. Guitarker, the alias for a man named Illumi, has some prior history with Killua. Judging by the sweat on his brow, it's not a good history either. With an unbroken stare, he reveals that he's Killua's older brother. sent to find him after he escaped to participate in the hunter exam. Though the younger lad was more curious about the challenge of the exam, his family aims to keep him locked in the position of mercenary. Since participating, Killua has lost his drive to be a killing machine as his father and older brother taught him. He just wants to be a kid. Tired of seeing his little friend get belittled, Leorio snaps at Illumi, demanding an explanation for his abusive belittling. A guard attempts to stop Illumi from leaving the ring and is deflated with pins for his troubles. The remaining contestants and Netero block the door, but Illumi is a cunning man. He reasons that killing Gon can wait so he can pass the exam, or, more importantly, make sure someone else doesn't. He forces Killua to forfeit with more psychological manipulation, thus gaining his license and the free will to kill Gon. As if under some spell, Killua stepped on the floor during Leorio's match and brutally murdered Midoro, having fully learned about the extent of his friend's failure. Gon marches into the orientation with his face stony. He marches towards Illumi demanding an apology. Naturally, the man refuses to produce one. In response, Gon, still with a broken arm, lifts Illumi into the air before breaking his wrist with his grip alone. When Netero's voice rings out, he's stopped from doing more damage to the stoic Illumi. Killua's status of failure is still up in the air. Even though the boy can't defend his actions, Leorio and Kurapika have already lodged their cases against their friend's sharp change in behavior. Pakal brings up that Hisoka and Kurapika's match also ended with a whisper and a forfeit, though the result was less deadly. Gon shuts him down, pointing out that everyone in the room passed one way or another, but Killua's circumstances are suspicious. While the ruling is not overturned, Gon is determined to find his friend and take him away from his horrible family. Illumi revealing his family's headquarters to Gon was not accidental, though Hisoka pulls him aside to ensure it was not a rash choice. After their dismissal and quick goodbyes to their new fellow hunters, Leorio, Gon, and Kurapika leave to find out where Kuro Mountain is. Before departing, Gon has one more question to ask Satos. What exactly is the card Kite dropped all those years ago? He reveals that it's a double-star hunter's license. And although Kite dropped it, the license also denotes the application cycle with the final 3 digits. Jing was the only applicant to pass during his cycle. Though their licenses don't carry nearly as much prestige as Jing's, the group can surf the web, late 90s style, with absolutely no barriers to find Kukuro Mountain. Satos bids the group farewell, but admits he nearly let slip that the 287th Hunter exam isn't quite over yet. The group goes to an internet cafe and quickly finds the location of Killua's home. Out of curiosity, Gon asks Kurapika to look up his father as well, but is met with a black screen. Jing is a very secretive man, so Gon will have to put in some hard work to find his location. Soon the group flies off to the town at the base of Kukuro Mountain. They join a tour going to the base of the estate and a group filled with some very shady figures. As the bus approaches, they're given a brief overview of the Zoldyck family. 3 generations of deadly assassins currently reside in the giant compound on the peak of Kukuro Mountain. Despite, or perhaps because of, their deadly reputation, their home is isolated and walled off with a massive door to Hades. The shady figures reveal that they're in for the massive bounty and try to break down the massive door. The gate attendant apparently caves to their demands and lets them in, but only their skeletons come out moments later thanks to a big monstrous hand attached to something called Mike. As the remaining tourists flee back to the bus, Gon, Leorio, and Kurapika stay still. Even when the guard tries to force their departure, the group decides to sit by the massive door and plan. The guard explains that Mike the guard dog has held its post for a decade and hasn't let a single non-Zoldyck go undigested. However, the door to Hades is a fake specifically for intruders right next to the actual entrance. The real gate is just as much of a pain, with each door weighing 2 tons. The testing gate, as it's known, is off bounds for Mike, but requires immense strength to open and shuts automatically. Gon tries to convince the guard to let him go in the intruder's gate, finding the testing your friend concept rude. Though the guard agrees with his point, Scaling the wall is a no-go, and the intruder's gate is instant death. Seeing that these three aren't leaving, the guards try calling home, but is swiftly hung up on by the butler, who is the sole person who takes calls. Gon attempts to gain direct communication with Killua, politely at first, but with aggression the second time, but is shut down by the suspicious butler. Feeling pity for Gon, the butler offers to enter with the trio in order to deter Mike from attacking. He knows that Gon is confident in the concept of teamwork and his fearlessness, so he aims to introduce the three to Mike. He summons the lumbering beast, a giant wolf-like thing, and Gon realizes that this is not a challenge. He can beat with his previous experience befriending woodland creatures. Out of plans, the guard leads them to servants' quarters for the night. These doors are also very heavy, weighing 440 pounds each, but Leorio is able to open them. Each item in the quarters is also weighted in order to train the servants. Since the three are on travel visas, they can also stay and train for a month. With no other fair way to enter the compound, the trio agree to train. 3 weeks later, the three all beat the testing gate, with Leorio even beating the even heavier second testing gate. Now the three are on the untread path. Neither the guard nor the cook Zebro have made it anywhere near the mansion. Zebro was actually a hunter planning to storm the grounds, but was so impressed by the massacre of his soldiers by one young butler that he stayed on as a Zoldyck employee. The trio run into the same butler mere moments later as she holds her post in the forest. With no precedent for friends who called ahead, she's less than reluctant to treat them as intruders. She knocks Gon down like a bowling pin, but Gon isn't quite ready for a fight. He tries to appeal to her humanity and reason, but she is determined to stick to her orders. She tries again, but Gon keeps getting back up, as per usual, as a pair of eyes watches from the bushes. The butler even begs Leorio and Kurapika to pull Gon away, but they trust him and stay away from the very one-sided smackdown. This pause gives the very beaten down Gon enough time to go berserk in frustration and sadness. He breaks a pillar in rage and crosses the line into the butler's guarded territory, between Gon technically defeating her. A genuine worry for his physical and mental state, and a mention of Killua, the butler lets down her guard. She pleads for them to help Killua before fainting from a shot. The culprit is a heavily bandaged woman in a full Victorian garb and a RoboCop eyepiece, joined by a tiny copy of Illumi with bangs. The woman is aware of Gon thanks to Illumi and tells him that Killua is too busy to see him right now. The unfortunate reality is that Killua is beaten, bruised, and hanging from chains. He's being whipped by a portly boy smoking a cigarette, his older brother, Miluki. Although he still has a weirdly chipper attitude, Miluki is not thrown off guard and promptly puts out the lit cigarette on his brother's chest. He then gets a call from his mother, the Victorian RoboCop lady, about the arrival of his friends. Out of sheer anger of a direct threat of violence against his only friends, Killua rips his arm free of the hanging chain and threatens his captor. Before things get nasty, their grandfather Zeno steps in and releases Killua from the torture room. His father has requested his presence. Silva, an imposing figure with the same stark white hair as Killua, asks his son about his new friends and the hunter exam. With a look of awe, he agrees. The two have a particularly sweet heart-to-heart, their first ever proper father-son moment, which leads Silva to ask what exactly his son wants. He answers honestly and leaves after a blood pact to never betray his new friends. Back out in the garden, the Zoldyck matriarch introduces herself and another Zoldyck child, Kaluto, to the invading trio. They ask why all the effort to keep them out of the mansion, and in return are given a more in-depth explanation of Killua's initial escape and return to the estate. Without a clear answer on Killua's status, the trio let the matriarch leave with a message and a promise to stay for 10 more days. The matriarch reaches the doorway right as Killua prepares to exit. She lies about his friends leaving and orders him back to the dungeon. He meets her with an icy glare and orders her to step aside. He leaves and she runs to her husband, screeching about his and Zeno's stupidity. Silva is unconcerned. He believes his son will return. As she flees away in frustration, the butler regains consciousness. She leads the trio to the butler's quarters, where they're greeted with a surprisingly courteous attitude. They're told Killua will meet them there, but they'll have to wait a while since the mansion is still quite far away. One butler suggests a game of trick magic. The trio must guess which hand he is hiding a coin. The three easily guess the first 2 rounds, but Leorio and Gon are stumped by round 3. Kurapika guesses correctly, impressing the butler. His mood is immediately soured by a reminder of how the Zoldyck mother sounded over the phone. Turns out this was a trap, and their fellow butler is restrained in order to keep her throat unslit. The trio must play a near impossible round of this guessing game. Leorio guesses wrong on the first round and is blocked from playing. The next round has Gon and Kurapika splitting the vote in order to keep one of them in the game. Gon is right, but he realizes he's immediately at a disadvantage going into the final round because of his bandaged eye. He asks the butler to wait before catching Leorio's knife and cutting away the bandage. His eye is nearly healed. The final round commences and Gon guesses correctly. However, the game ups the ante when the coin is rotated between three butlers. Gon guesses the secret fourth option, a butler behind him, and saves everyone from a presumably grisly fate. Well, that and Killua arrives at the butler's home. The friends excitedly reunite, and they all prepare to depart Kukuro Mountain. Gon halts for a moment to ask the butler if he'll miss his ward, as he mentioned a strong bond earlier, but he stoically responds that he shouldn't get attached. They play one last round for the road before the group departs on their next adventure. And that is the end of Hunter x Hunter's first arc. With our protagonists reunited and the three of them newly minted hunters, the world is their oyster. But Sato's did insinuate that the exam isn't quite over yet.
With Gon, Leorio, Killua, and Kurapika finally reunited after the disastrous end of the 287th Hunter exam, the world is theirs to explore, but it seems that the test might not be over yet. The Heaven's Arena arc will push two of our young protagonists to heights they've never yet experienced and put them in contact with increasingly deadly foes. As the group returns to the town near Kukuru Mountain, Killua is frustrated with Gon refusing to use his new license to its full potential. As he told Sato's back in the makeshift hospital room, Gon has other priorities before taking on the label of Hunter. Goal 1 is punching Hisoka square in the face and giving him back his badge. Kurapika knows where the Clown Man is, or rather, where he plans to go. The match-ending whisper between the two was Hisoka proposing secret knowledge about the Spiders, the street name of the Phantom Troupe. They're the ones responsible for the massacre of the Kurapika's clan, which his opponent would not have been aware of from eavesdropping. Later, after the lecture, Hisoka gave a meeting date and location for any further information, September 1st in Yorknew City. The largest auction in the world occurs that day, which either means the troupe themselves will be there, or he can get more information from wealthier, world-liar people. Until then, Kurapika is going to put his license to use and get money to attend the auction. Leorio splinters as well to study and use his own license in order to attend a public medical school. They all vowed to reunite September 1st in Yorknew City. Gon and the newly independent Killua are left in the town with no plans and 6 months to kill. Killua adamantly suggests training considering Gon's poor showing in his fight with Hanzo, a significantly weaker opponent than Hisoka. He knows just the place to make Gon a proper fighting threat and for them to get more cash, the 251-floor Thunderdome called Heaven's Arena. With their last few bits of cash, they get airfare and fly to a new chapter in their lives. They're met with a long wait, which they push through, and paperwork that they lie on. Killua knows how to get in since he finished 200 floors between ages 6 and 8. The two enter to the first floor where Gon is nearly immediately called to an evaluation fight. His opponent is built like a Mack truck, which causes the spectators to mark him an easy out. With one push, Gon sends his opponent flying out of the ring. He's immediately advanced to the 50th floor. Because of his veteran status, Killua's offered the opportunity to advance all the way to floor 180. He declines and chooses to stay with Gon. The referee remarks on how many kids are kicking butt today as Killua spots another large man down by a boy in a jeep. Both boys are taken by a guide to the 50th floor and given the rules of the facility. They run into the kid in the jeep, Zushi, who is here to improve upon his Shingen Ryu Kung Fu skills. Before Gon and Killua can ask what exactly that is, the boy's mentor arrives congratulating his student. He's shocked by Gon and Killua, assuming Zushi would be the sole child fighter, but seems happy to see two kids just as proficient in fighting. The three collect their winnings, enough Jenny to cover a can of juice, which disappoints them. Killua hints at larger winnings to come as they advance further up. His first time around, he left Heaven's Arena a millionaire, but he dumped all the winnings on snacks. While Gon and Zushi try to calculate the number of snacks 200 million Jenny would cover, Killua ushers them over to wait for another fight. He's paired to fight Zushi. The audience bets that he'll lose, probably because Zushi looks like a fighter. The odds aren't really in Zushi's favor though, since Killua knocks him down with a quick lightning strike to the spine. That grants him 2 out of the required 10 points to win a match. Zushi gets back up, meaning the fight is still on. Round 2 starts with some clean punches from the tiny martial artist, but another lightning strike to the spine knocks him down again. He gets back up much quicker and assumes another stance. He squats and swirls his fists, somehow causing Killua to retreat involuntarily. The teacher quickly calls Zushi's new tactic off with a deafening yell. Eventually, Killua beats the young lad and reunites with Gon, who also won his match. He recounts the match with Zushi to his friend, including the weird move that his master called off. It was very similar to the technique Illumi used on him. According to the teacher, it's called Ren. The boys keep going up floors with ease. They finally reach the 100th floor and the complimentary room before quickly rising to the 150th. Gon and Killua, knowing the challenge that awaits them the higher they go, want to learn the secrets of Ren. They seek Zushi out, and he's more than happy to explain, poorly. His teacher cuts him off quickly and tries to stop the boys from learning any further. Killua shuts that suggestion down. He's sure that it's the source of Illumi's powers and persuades the teacher Wing to guide them. To prevent the boys from learning about this power through more unsavory means, he agrees. It's time to learn about Nen of the Flame. The power comes from 4 elements: Ten, Zetsu, Ren, and Hatsu. To demonstrate, Wing will kill Killua. He seems to be serious and explains each step of his process as he builds up his power. The room is deadly silent until seconds before the killing blow, when a crackling energy starts building up. With a final menacing crackle, it dies down and Killua is perched like a spider in between the wall and the ceiling. The reason Killua wasn't killed was because Wing's Ren overrode his Hatsu. He wasn't going to kill the kid, just scare him a little. He then assigns a bit of homework, Master 10 to resist intimidation. As they leave, Killua remains a bit suspicious about Wing's explanation. He gave a severe beatdown to Zushi near the end of their fight, but the kid just kept getting back up. Turns out Killua wasn't far off. Zushi confronts Wing about it as soon as their room's door is shut. Wing misled the 2 boys about the nature of Nen. The teacher stands by his choice, not necessarily to gatekeep non-pupils, but to make sure the power isn't used by the wrong people. Days later, the boys reach the coveted 200th floor. It's now unknown territory for both of them. The psychic blast that accosts them immediately is their warm welcome. Hisoka is the one responsible for the flood of bad vibes. He's been waiting for them. He's joining Gon, Killua, and the other 172 standby fighters, aiming to fight for honor and respect. However, he knows the kids aren't quite ready to fight on this level, and pushes them away repeatedly with the same dark energy. Wing just so happens to be in the same hallway, right as Killua realizes that the energy blast is Nen. With less than 4 hours for the registration window and realizing that his ruse could potentially get these kids killed, Wing decides to teach the boys for real. Nen is actually the ability to control an aura. Everyone has it, but very few hone it. There's still 4 principles to master. 10 is the ability to contain the aura, Zetsu is how to shut off the aura, and Ren is turning up the aura. Wing demonstrates the last principle and admires both Gon and Killua's sensitivity to aura with no training. 10 is the first principle to master as a defense against Nen-based attacks. Wing demonstrates what can happen to a defenseless body by cracking a wall simply by touching it. Although Wing would prefer to take the slow approach to teaching Nen, the way he's training Zushi, Killua reminds him that they don't have the time. The speedrun involves Hatsu, which is the release of aura, to jumpstart Gon and Killua's aura nodes. Before the teacher can endanger his new students, Killua inquires why he had a sudden change of heart. Wing explains that he realized the massive potential of both kids and the genuinely deadly reality of reaching the 200th floor with no Nen training. Satisfied with his praise, Gon and Killua prepare to open their nodes. They're jolted through the air by the sheer power of their aura being unlocked and begin seeing it shooting out of their bodies at all angles. In order to preserve their life force, they have to activate 10 immediately. Both kids quickly contain their auras by focusing the energy like the pumping of blood through the body. With their aura properly functioning as a shield, Gon and Killua are finally able to make their way through Hisoka's Nen barrier. He's pleased with their quick development, but still taunts Gon about his inexperience. He must win his first real fight to even have a chance with Hisoka. The two head on to registration, where they're informed about the protocol changes. They have up to 3 months to prepare for each fight. 10 fight wins grant them the opportunity to challenge a floor master, and 4 losses means disqualification. Beating a floor master grants them the position and the ability to fight in the biennial festival of combat. Neither kid is particularly persuaded by this reward system, and they simply request their first fight. Gon's first fight is officially confirmed for the following day. He's not looking to win, but simply wants to give 10 a try. His opponent, Guido, has a record of 4 wins and 1 loss, meaning he's at a massive disadvantage. With Wing and Killua watching nervously, Gon steps forward and activates his 10. Guido is already prepared with a counterattack, a dozen tops that he releases to bounce around the battleground. As they collide, they begin slamming into Gon and knock him to the ground, yet the tops continue to spin. He's knocked down again and again while being unable unable to keep track of where the tops come and go. The tops are powered by Hatsu, which is why they keep spinning, and Gon has little in the way of defense. Ever the quick thinker, Gon realizes the tops are imbued with Nen. He hones his aura and begins sensing the energy within each top. It works for a little, but he's quickly knocked down again. He realizes one top has gone rogue. It continues to spin, but it's not attacking him. The tops are just hitting any obstacle in their path. If Gon just stays away from the high traffic areas, he can focus on attacking Gedo. The problem is that Gedo himself also spins like a giant top once attacked. It's a critical hit. Gedo only needs one more point to win the fight. Gon is years behind in skill. It's a guaranteed loss at this point. Digging deep into his resolve, Gon releases his 10 and shuts off his aura. Killua yells at Gon's reckless behavior, and Wing realizes his loss was planned but will come at the cost of his physical well-being. Somehow it works, and Gon's extra focused senses allow him to dodge the tops, flying in every direction for a time. He lasts a full hour before the sheer volume of Gedo's tops overwhelms him. By the end of the fight, all the bones in his arm basically shattered. Despite his optimistic takeaway from the fight, Killua is much more upset that his friend recklessly sacrificed himself. Their fight is interrupted by Wing knocking on the door. He walks in and immediately smacks Gon before yelling at him. He also did not appreciate Gon's hands-on approach to testing 10. In order to let his arm fully heal, his battles and Nen lessons will be postponed for 2 months. It's sealed with a ribbon around his pinky. Outside Gon's hospital room, Wing tries to gauge what exactly Killua and his companion want from Heaven's Arena. Killua admits that since meeting Wing and Zushi, his priorities have changed, but Gon's plan to fight Hisoka has stayed the same. His cravings for adrenaline are simply too high. Wing, understanding that Gon and Killua would possibly find other means to learn Nen, allows the boys to practice 10 and honing their senses. And 1 month passes and Gon's arm is back to normal, much to Killua's shock and awe. He quickly regains his composure and presents Gon with a present of intrigue: tickets to Hisoka's match. The tickets were still a hard get, even for a 200th floor participant. With 8 wins and 6 KOs in his 11 matches, Hisoka has become quite the spectacle for the patrons of Heaven's Arena. He's only been downed once and received 3 clean hits. Castro, his opponent for this match, is responsible for the down and a majority of the hits. This won't be a leisure trip for Gon. He plans to learn from Castro during the match. Wing stops them. Watching a match still qualifies as Nen training, and Gon is still off duty for another month. He sends his pupil away to rest, but not before realizing their auras have strengthened and clarified. Killua, not wanting to waste the money, ventures in by himself to tape the match for his friend. He wanders around the lobby and is taken off guard by Castro's pre-fight interviews. He has the confidence of a man that's already won. While sneaking around the backrooms, Killua winds up running into the man himself. Not only did Castro seemingly teleport directly in front of Killua, he also knows his name. He's been keeping tabs on all the participants of the 200th floor and seems genuinely impressed with both young competitors. Castro is confident he'll be in the fight of fights, the Battle Olympia, and promises to teach Killua the secrets of super speed after his match with Hisoka. Killua watches wide-eyed from the audience. Castro dashes forward at the starting yell and lands an easy, clean hit on Hisoka. Since their last fight 2 years prior, he's been taking the prospect of a rematch seriously. Apparently, Hisoka has not and will not. He submits himself to another series of beatings, cracking a wall and getting downed in the process. It almost seems like he can't continue, but Hisoka manages to straggle back to his feet. Castro's movements have left him perplexed and a bit uneasy. Not that his opponent particularly cares about this, he just threatens to take his arm. Castro builds up his signature move, the Tiger Bite Fist, which is powerful enough to tear a tree in half. It looks like a certain death for Hisoka, and the clown puts out his left arm as a sacrifice. His opponent complies, but switches and yanks his right arm instead. The severed limb flies through the air, giving Castro ample time to gloat. However, it also gave Hisoka enough time to determine what his opponent's special ability is, creating a Nen double. To ensure maximum pain, Castro keeps his doppelganger active to deliver double the pain and maybe taking Hisoka's left arm. Despite losing an actual limb, Hisoka seems more invigorated than ever. In fact, he's decided to do a magic trick with his arm. It transforms into loose playing cards that scatter across the floor. He makes Castro pick a card and do some mental math before reaching into his still bleeding arm stump. He literally had an ace up his sleeve. Everyone is confused and horrified at the display, and their shock doesn't stop when Hisoka offers up his remaining arm for Castro to sever. For a split second, it looks like Hisoka is armless, until he reveals that his right arm is somehow attached to his body through more devil magic. He's finally thrown Castro off his rhythm, and he's not making the same mistake of revealing his trick. Revealing his hand would be a disadvantage. This is proven when Hisoka starts dodging the double attack with precision. He then lands his first hit of the match, elbowing Castro so so hard that he spews blood from his mouth. Cards come flying at him from all directions, and there's no way for his double to save him. He doesn't have enough focus left in him to produce a convincing double. With no barrier of protection, Castro is stabbed with cards everywhere and bleeds out. Through the power of psychological manipulation and some form of devilish Zhoniin, Hisoka won the match. He leaves the match and meets up with a woman in the back rooms. She berates him for his idiocy, but is ultimately unconcerned since more work means a pay raise. It seems both of Hisoka's arms were truly severed during the battle, so the mysterious woman gets to work stitching the clown back together. With speed and precision, she uses her nen as a doctor would a suture. Using the same magic handkerchief he used on the battlefield, Hisoka provides the final touches to his nen surgery and covers the stitches, just like he did during his fight. Bungee Gum, Hisoka's special nen ability, is the dark magic the audience and announcers witnessed during the fight. He's able to modify his aura to make it behave like bubblegum, elastic and sticky. By using Zetsu to conceal his aura, Hisoka was able to keep misdirecting Castro between the card tricks, the mysterious reappearance of his arm, and Castro's ultimate demise. With her job done, the mysterious woman goes to leave, but informs Hisoka that he needs to be in Yorknew City by August 30th. He can't blow off another mission, especially one as big as the Yorknew operation, but Hisoka keeps his cavalier attitude. He goes to shower off the sweat and blood he accumulated from his battle, revealing a massive spider tattoo with a 4 on his back, the same one that Kurapika indicated as a mark of the Phantom Troupe back during the Trick Tower portion of the Hunter exam. As he goes to leave the shower, he seems to regard the tattoo with some confusion. He peels it off and seems to shake away the spider. With Gon and Killua as his new objects of attention, he's abandoning whatever previous alliance he seemed to have with the Phantom Troupe. Another month passes, so Gon and Killua are back to training with Wing and Zushi. Even without practicing, Gon is able to activate his 10 quicker and keep its stream swirling like a powerful river. The four sit and watch the tape of Hisoka's fight. Gon finally sees the brutality his self-imposed target inflicted on Castro. After they finish the tape, Wing informs Gon and Killua that their homework is to find what Hisoka's special ability is. This requires Ren, which Zushi demonstrates once more at Wing's command. It takes the poor kid considerable effort to even catch glimpses of Hisoka's nen. His Gyo, or focus, was working overtime. With Gyo and enough training, Wing said it might be possible to at least gain an understanding of what Hisoka was doing. With less than a month for Killua and Gon to register for their fights, they have very little time to master Gyo. As the three kids wander through the floors of Heaven's Arena, they run into Guido and his posse. These three intentionally target newbies to get easy wins. Gon, who doesn't know how to keep a secret, gives up the day of his next fight. Another posse member with a mask-like face, he'll be Gon's next sparring partner. The kids eventually move back to the 20th floor to practice Ren and Gyu. They're able to get the basic mechanics of timing 10 with Ren, which shocks Zushi. He calls the end of practice time and leaves his new friends. On his way out, he runs into the man that told Gon he'd be his next opponent. Zushi is paralyzed and strongly encouraged not to fight it. Killua appears to save Zushi, who is dragged away by the third posse member, and challenges the mysterious man to fight him instead. He'll play the man's game and let him win if it means Gon doesn't break any more promises. They register, and Killua laments how hard not playing dirty is. The date of the fight edges closer. Gon versus Sadaso, which wasn't supposed to be happening, is selling out quickly. Killua skulks incognito to get the scoop on the man with the mask-like face. He's spotted, and various spectators wonder why Sadaso isn't worrying about fighting Killua first before Gon. The boy returns to his friends and teacher to check up on them and reveal that he's already mastered Gyo. He's correctly able to name each strand of aura Hisoka employed during the match and deduce its special properties before his body tires out. Turns out Gon also learned Gyo in one day for the same purpose, fighting sooner since they're both being blackmailed by Guido and Sadaso. Rightfully upset at the situation both he and Gon have been forced into, Killua takes matters into his own hands. That night, he sneaks into Sadaso's room and puts a knife straight through the man's skull. He's not dead. Killua's assassin training shows itself once more, but Sadaso must back out of both fights. Killua has won his first match, and Sadaso leaves Heaven's Arena. Guido and his other accomplice try to figure out how they can still become floor masters, but are threatened into playing fair and square by Killua. It's the day of Gon's rematch with Guido. He's more prepared this time around, his Ren is progressing smoothly, and he plans to bring in his trusty fishing rod. The starting call is given, and Gon winds up his fishing rod while Guido, thinking ahead, begins spinning like a top. The same tops that rendered Gon with a broken arm start flying once more, directly aimed at the boy. However, he's able to block all the tops in one fell swoop. His anger is leaking out of him. Then he tries to hook onto Guido's robe to stop his spinning, but it just bounces off. He quickly regroups regroups and casts his rod again. This time, he aims for the bottom of the fighting ring. The tile that Gedo stood on flipped over, and the manipulative foe landed hard on his back. His metal leg snapped in two. Gon finishes this rematch with a hard punch to Gedo's face and a promise to do much worse if he ever touches Zushi again. With Gon the decisive victor, Killua is left to fight Realvelt, Gedo's other sidekick. Realvelt is astonishingly confident, but is quickly knocked down a peg when Killua nearly lands a sneak attack. He's able to use his aura to blast away from the boy, but it was still a close call. To keep Killua at a distance, Realvelt whips out his secret weapon, dual-wielded whips imbued with aura. The whips fly around at a rapid speed, but Killua is able to grab both with little effort. This plan seems to backfire since he's promptly electrocuted. Unsurprisingly, Killua is completely unharmed. His mercenary training taught him to withstand torture, and he sends Realvelt flying into the air by his whips. He catches the stunned man, then proceeds to shock him with his whips. Realvelt is out cold. Killua is the victor. The boys each have one more fight left, swapping their opponents. Killua is immediately off the hook since Gedo forfeited. Gon is left to fight Realvelt, who, if he loses, will be kicked off the 200 beat. He immediately takes out the whips. Gon takes a much different approach and squats at a distance. With nothing but raw strength, he rips out a floor tile and chucks it at his opponent. Realvelt tries to flee, but winds up directly in front of Gon. The boy takes a whip, wraps it around his opponent's neck, and shocks him. He's declared the victor, freeing himself and Killua from their blackmailers. Gon's next move is what he's been waiting for this whole time, a battle with Hisoka. He and Killua go back to Wing to finish up their Nen training. Now they must find their own special niche with Nen. There are 6 possible specialties that Nen can manifest into: Manipulator, Emitter, Enhancer, Transmitter, Conjurer, and Specialist. Each person is born innately compatible with a type. It's easier to learn other types that share similar elements. For example, Gedo's a born Enhancer, but the spinning tops require the vastly different capabilities of a Manipulator. In order to find out what class the boys fit into, Wing will have them do water divination. Since Wing's aura caused the water to flow over the cup, he is an Enhancer. When Gon tries, he's able to do the same. Zushi can make the leaf floating on top wiggle, indicating he's a Manipulator. Finally, Killua tries, but it seems that he's unable to do anything, until Gon and Zushi taste the water to realize it's sweet. This means Killua is a Transmuter. With all their aura's classifications determined, they must practice honing their individual types with the water divination. Gon finally decides on setting a date with Hisoka, which seems to excite the clown deeply. With another set deadline to master his Enhancer skills, Gon throws himself into training. By the end of the week, his water divination is nearly on par with Wing's. Killua's transmutation has improved rapidly as well. Wing informs them that they're ready to graduate. They pass the secret phase of the Hunter exam and are ready to be fully fledged members of the Hunter Association. Hanzo and Kurapika have also been training in Nen as well. Lirio will begin after finishing medical school, and obviously Hisoka and Illumi were ahead of the game. With the full confidence of his mentor, Gon is prepared for the most important fight of his life so far. The big day comes quickly. The stadium is packed and ready for the epic fight. Gon's in a pretty good position, but Hisoka has huge stakes. If he wins, he's a floor master. If he loses, he's kicked out of the 200th floor. The tension is crackling, and the audience can feel the ominous aura Hisoka is leaking out. The two start flying at each other. Gon is nearly able to land a punch, but Hisoka dodges and lands a punch of his own. Limbs fly everywhere in a flurry of blocks and kicks. One punch to the face sends Gon skidding across the floor. A once-even match turns in Hisoka's favor, but his young opponent's tenacity just won't quit. He keeps dodging potential blows until a seemingly weak punch to the chest sends him flying. Even more impressively, he hasn't moved an inch from his starting position. This whole first round was just Hisoka having fun. Gon rushes at him, appearing to land a hit, but goes to flip the stone panel instead. He shatters the stone and sends the pieces flying at Hisoka. With the clown distracted by the stones, Gon is able to sneak in a hard punch to his cheek. Gon is now leading the fight with 2 points to Hisoka's 1. The clown approaches him with a creepy smile. Gon isn't going in for another fight though. He simply produces Hisoka's badge from the Hunter exam. He takes the badge but isn't quite done with Gon yet. He psychologically toys with Gon with his amateur personality analysis based on Nen types. It's honestly pretty spot on and almost reads as an olive branch. With that, the fight is back underway. It's another chaotic flow of punches and kicks. Hisoka even kicks a stone into the stands. Gon can't keep up and is knocked down with another critical hit. Hisoka has gained the upper hand once again. In the flurry, Hisoka also attached bungee gum to his opponent, which drags him out of thought and into his fist. He's dragged down to his hands and knees, giving Hisoka 3 more points. Hisoka will only let go if Gon can guess when he's stuck on the bungee gum. This was of course a trick, but it also means Hisoka has just revealed his hand when he completely explains how he uses bungee gum in a fight. Since Gon can't escape the bungee gum, he has no choice but to plow forward. This inappropriately excites Hisoka more. With his opponent distracted, Gon just beats the ever-living daylights out of the clown. He does get pulled in and knocked down by the bungee gum once more. Hisoka still hasn't lost the upper hand. It's now the final minutes of the match, and the judge just declared a critical hit for an obviously blocked punch. The crowd is in shambles. The distraction is enough for Hisoka to land a match-ending smack with a piece of debris and more bungee gum shenanigans. He walks off the floor, letting Gon know that the next time they fight, it'll be life and death. With the match Gon was waiting for over, Killua suggests that they ditch Heaven's Arena and go back to Whale Island. That's the end of Heaven's Arena. With the time left towards Yorknew City winding down and Hisoka's own mysterious intentions slowly getting revealed, the stakes for our Core 4's meetup only get higher. The Yorknew City arc is where the story of Hunter x Hunter really gets chaotic. There's espionage, mafias, crazy nen antics, and the proper introduction of the Phantom Troupe. As the September 1st meeting date looms large, our heroes prepare to enter the beast that is Yorknew City. After passing the secret third portion of the Hunter exam in Heaven's Arena, Gon and Killua hop on a ship to travel back to Gon's home of Whale Island. Aunt Mito, in a mix of shock and joy, throws a list of demands at the boys. Simply happy to be back in a home, the two boys comply with her demands. After freshening up, Gon updates his aunt on his journey to becoming a hunter. She jokingly tries to test the license's durability in a thinly veiled attempt at snapping it, but Gon gets upset at the act. The boys travel into the forest, staying well into the night and bonding further over their mutual loneliness growing up. Gon also talks about his biological mother for the first time, admitting that he has no desire to learn what actually happened to her. Meeting Kite served as the catalyst to learn the truth about his dad, but Aunt Mito is enough of a mother figure. They return back to Mito's house the next day, where she bequeaths a mysterious gift from Ging to her nephew, one only for if he became a hunter. She and Gon's grandmother finally open up about their relationships with Gon's father. Turns out the accident Mito said caused Ging's death did happen, but it was her parents that perished. Not long after Ging left for the hunter exam, his own father was lost at sea. Her cousin returned home a decade later with a baby Gon in his arms. Mito yelled at Ging to never return, but kept the mysterious box that Gon now holds in his hands. Excited to have Mito finally open up about his father, Gon asks more about Ging, who he notably only refers to by his first name. The family and Killua continue to share stories long into the night. The next morning, Gon and Killua start trying to open the box. After Gon uses his aura, the box begins radiating light and bursts open to reveal a smaller ornate box. The box pops open after Gon inserts his license, and 3 items are revealed: a ring, a cassette tape, and a memory card. The ring has the same nen binding markings as the simple wooden box and the promise string wing tied around Gon's finger. Killua suggests that Gon put the ring back, and the two decide to play the cassette tape. Gon hears his father's voice for the first time, asking the all-important question, "Do you want to see me?" He gives his son several chances to back out, but Gon and Killua continue listening. Ging admits that he won't be trying to reunite with his son anytime soon. He's definitely going to be chasing adventures 10 years in the future, or the present day now. As the readers can see, this is true. Ging is ridding multiple giant beasts in some faraway land. He challenges his son to catch up with him, though Ging certainly won't be making things easy. As the tape nears its end, Ging offers up information about Gon's mom. His son stops the tape, knowing that he already has a mom in Mito. The tape, imbued with nen, almost immediately begins to rewind itself. Ging is really leaving no trace or clues for this new cat and mouse chase. Both the original tape and the blank backup tape are blank. The boys decide to analyze the final item in the box. It's a memory card for a Joystation game. Elsewhere, Kurapika arrives at a giant mansion. After learning nen in just 6 months, he was able to finally get a job interview through the exclusive Hunter job agency. This job, a bodyguard position, is for a flesh hunter. He learns what that is when his preliminary contract is finding a pair of Korda eyes. His plotting to arrest the flesh collectors gets cut short when the job interview starts. It's a battle royal. Using his new nen-imbued finger chains, Kurapika stops bullets flying directly at him, stunning his fellow interviewees. He spars and evades the masked figures in both close hand and distance combat. From his vantage point upstairs, Kurapika deduces who summoned the masked men. They're not actually men at all, they're nen manifestations. The man creating the assassins, Shakumono Tsushino, caves once Kurapika holds him at knife point. Shakumono is already a bodyguard and was given the task of providing a real threat for the interview. He's impressed by getting found out so quickly, but this was simply the first step in the interview process. Using the guiding ring finger or dowsing chain, Kurapika is able to quickly discover the second infiltrator. Squala is upset by the charge, but a balding, buck-toothed woman, Melody, backs Kurapika up. She senses heartbeats, and Squala's heartbeat didn't beat like an anxious person. To halt the arguing buff mutton chops, Man Beisho invokes his nen. The wandering haiku poet. Any haiku he writes on a tablet will become true. He threatens the possible intruder with spontaneous combustion if they lie one more time. Squala confesses, but he refuses to give up his orders. Buys, the final non-infiltrator, takes matters into her own hands by invoking a 180-minute love slave. Her nen that makes any man she kisses her servant for 3 hours. With Squala delirious with lust, the 4 actual applicants escape to get their required artifacts. Sometime later, all 4 are officially brought onto the Yorknew auction job. They're instructed to guard the boss. Kurapika attempts to narrow down who or what pose the biggest threats to the boss, but his new manager isn't having any of this logical questioning. In this business, anyone that isn't an ally is an enemy. The new recruits walk cautiously down a hallway littered with melted corpses of former colleagues. The manager takes them into a lavish bedroom where the boss, a teenage girl, resides. Back on Whale Island, Gon and Killua work on decoding what the Joy Station memory card is. The game is a Juggernaut file called Greed Island, which neither boy has heard of. No other copies are available online, but it seems to be for hunters only sold for billions of Jenny. The boys have stumbled into a gold mine, however they still need to buy a copy of the game for the memory card, which they certainly can't afford. They place an ask on this universe's eBay, but wind up with so many offers, Killua assumes it's a scam. With nowhere else to turn, Killua calls up his brother Goto, the one that tortured him, for gamer expertise. Goto reveals that the game has become somewhat of a legend in gamer circles, but refuses to give up his leads without a bribe. A deal is struck and the boys get their leads, a Hunter exclusive website and the Yorknew auction. Gon and Killua head to an internet cafe to test lead number 1. The digital bartender serving as their contact man has more information, including the price of Greed Island at the Yorknew auction, nearly 9 billion Jenny, and that there are too many units for Gon to find his dad through game sales. Obviously, Gon and Killua don't have the kind of money to buy a Greed Island copy, but they can sell things at the auction. Unfortunately, haggling proves to be a lot harder than either one of the boys anticipated. Tagashi himself interjects to dunk on the boys' poor business savvy. Finally, the day of the auction arrives. Gon and Killua, now equipped with better negotiating skills, meander down the crowded streets looking to make a deal. They nearly get swindled by a cell phone seller, but Leorio swoops in to turn haggling into a spectator sport. Elsewhere, Kurapika and crew arrive in the city in various expensive limos. On the ride over, the boss, Neon, angrily looks over her auction itinerary. She calls her father, the real boss, who convinces her to stay for one last gig. She's quite the asset to the Nostrade family since her nen, lovely ghostwriter, gives her powers of premonition. That's how her father managed to become the crime boss powerhouse. On the outskirts of the city, Machi, the healer that reattached Hisoka's arms, walks flanked by 3 other members of the Phantom Troupe. The auction is the first reunion of the group in years, probably for good reason since Man-Bun and Jacked Frankenstein start fighting immediately. Despite the scuffle, the 4 make their way to a warehouse where the Phantom Troupe begins scheming. At the Zoldyck estate, Goto continues looking for a way to screw over his brother. He's so dedicated to this self-imposed mission that he leaves the compound for the first time in years to participate in the auction. In Yorknew City, Gon, Killua, and Leorio work on preparations of their own. The boys catch Leorio up to speed on Greed Island and try to find another way to make a quick buck. They stumble upon a secret conditional auction which gives Leorio an idea. Carny work? For anyone willing to pay a 10,000 Jenny entry fee, they can enter an auction for an authentic diamond ring if they beat Gon in arm wrestling. Dozens of people try and fail. Right as Gon begins to tire out, a girl in a black turtleneck and glasses steps up to the plate. She puts up a good fight but winds up getting overpowered by the incomprehensibly strong preteen. With no time to try again, the girl leaves with other familiar faces. Later that day, Leorio and the boys count their earnings from the day's work. They only have about 10% of the minimum bid for Greed Island. They head back out on the streets to lure out larger, more extravagant bidders. A large man with a huge amount of cash comes up to challenge Gon, but the boy can't wrestle since the height difference is too great. Leorio steps up in his friend's place and quickly smashes the giant man's arm against the table. With the table crushed, the carny work is over for the day, but their attempt to find more extravagant bidders paid off. The paper leads them to a seedy underground auction with bloodthirsty patrons. They'll be playing a classy game of hide and seek. They're tasked with finding 7 people, all of whom were present at the arm wrestling game earlier. With winnings of 200 million Jenny per head, Gon, Leorio, and Killua have no choice but to play. Killua easily figures out that this is a bounty hunting scheme to nab the Mafia's loot, the Phantom Troupe. They decide to call the mysteriously absent Kurapika. Elsewhere in the city, the lead Nostrady bodyguard reads the first 4 sentences of Neon's ominous prediction. Boss Nostrady pressures the guard to bring his daughter home since it seems like her life is at risk. Since Neon can't see her own future and she's quite a stubborn girl, the head bodyguard informs her that she'll be attending the auction as planned. He tries to convince her to stay home but is met with a temper tantrum. The head returns to Kurapika and the other bodyguards to debrief them on the premonition and give them stations for the auction. Neon's outburst tired her out, so all the bodyguards will be monitoring the auction as Zoldyck and others bid. Kurapika and Melody stand watch from the skyscraper across from the auction. In an attempt to bond with her co-worker, Melody prods her fellow guard about the Kurta eyes. Since she can monitor his heartbeat, he can't lie to her. He reveals the tragic events that befell his clan before ensuring Melody won't rat him out. She promises to keep his secret safe, considering she has her own motives for taking the Nestrade job. A piece of sheet music composed by Satan himself. Their bonding time is cut short with the official start of the auction. Their fellow bodyguards traverse the auction building, checking out potential threats and rival capos. They enter the main theater where jacked Frankenstein and a short mall goth Phaeton take the podium. It's a stick-up. The Phantom Troupe hijacked the Yorknew auction. The larger man Franklin uses his Nen machine gun hands to start mowing down the auction participants. Shockmano summons his hooded Nen assassins to stem damage, but both he and his Nen figures take damage from the Nen bullets. He, Baze, and a third bodyguard get done in by Gon's arm wrestling opponent and her sentient carnivorous vacuum. She cleans up most of the evidence before the trio realize Shockmano survived. He threatens the troupe with the Mafia's wrath, but is silenced by a clip of Nen bullets. Kurapika and Melody witness guards flooding into the building in the massacre's aftermath before Dalzalen informs them to head into the building. Not a single guest or guard remains, and all the merchandise is gone, and most of the Phantom Troupe escape to a hot air balloon high above the city. The apparent second-in-command, a wolf-looking fellow, informs those stationed in their headquarters that nothing got stolen. Everything was already moved to a secondary location hours prior, which seems suspicious. Despite the threat of a Judas Krollo, the prophesied leader seems less than worried. He believes none of his followers are as easily swayed as the biblical traitor, and that the Mafia was just being cautious with their wares. Unfortunately, Phaeton killed the auctioneer, so the troupe has little information on where the items might be. To make matters worse, Hunter, that even the troupe seems to fear might have played a role in moving the items. Their heist seems to be off to a bad start. The other family's guards quickly regroup to shoot down the hot air balloon into a crater. They threaten the troupe members, who remain incredibly unfazed. The second-in-command, Uvagin, even escapes a near-fatal bullet by catching it between his teeth before snapping the offending shooter's neck. The other troupe members watch on as Uvagin takes hit after hit, bullet after bullet, and continues to stand strong. Not even the blast from a super bazooka can take him down. Kurapika, Dalzolini, and the other living Nostrade bodyguards witness Uvogin's improbable survival from within the crater. His aura is so powerful that the bodyguards debate fleeing the scene and letting the troupe be until Melody senses an extra heartbeat. A horrifying worm-like creature emerges from the ground, scaring the bodyguards even further. His name is appropriately Worm, and he's one of the crew of Shadow Beasts, the elite of the elite hunter assassins. The other Shadow Beasts emerge and surround Uvagin, trying to extract information about the troupe's massacre. Worm's even able to land a solid hit on the giant wall of man, but receives one in return that knocks out his eye. Uvagin continues laying into Worm until his arm gets stuck in a hold. Worm has trapped him, though the troupe member seems to think he still has the upper hand. Uvagin punches the ground hard, creating an earthquake with his fists, killing Worm and freeing himself. His spider tattoo catches the eyes of the remaining Shadow Beasts, and more importantly, Kurapika. The Shadow Beasts charge Uvagin with Porcupine leading. He provides quite the challenge with his Nen quills that halt his opponent's punches and break his virtually impenetrable skin. The 3-on-1 fight ramps up, with no help from the taunting troupe members on the cliff above. When Rabid Dog's neurotoxin begins to migrate through Uvagin's blood, Leech begins vomiting up his namesake bloodsuckers on the paralyzed spider. However, the spider isn't quite down and out. Uvagin bites a massive chunk from Leech's head, then spits a piece of the skull into Rabid Dog's head. To finish off the carnage, his screams burst Porcupine's eardrums. With the Shadow Beast neutralized, Shalnark, the heckling troupe member from earlier, gives Uvagin questionable advice on how to pass the leeches that Shizuku's sentient vacuum Blinky won't reach. Whether or not he'll live long enough to pee out all the leeches is still up in the air. Kurapika, determination in his eyes, stalks down the crater intent on finishing what the Shadow Beast could not. The troupe members are still distracted by Uvagin's current leech predicament, so they're oblivious when a sneak attack shocks the giant beast of a man and drags him away. Somehow Machi quickly attached a Nen thread to her colleague so the troupe members can track his location. They quickly begin tailing their captured collaborator through the canyons. Kurapika and the bodyguards take the still paralyzed Uvogin hostage in their car. He tries to get smart with his captors, but Kurapika's chain jail, the middle finger chain, holds him tight. He made a binding vow to use this this power specifically for catching the spiders. Violating this promise will cause his own demise. The Troupe's car speeds closer and closer until a mysterious man, perhaps another of the Nen beasts, jumps and places a Nen handkerchief over it. It shrinks their car, leaving the Troupe without a ride. They're less upset and more fascinated by this wild magic trick. It's also enough of a distraction for the Nostrade bodyguards to peel away and return to their safe house. Uvogin wakes up on a lab table, chained to the bed, not by Kurapika's chains this time, and surrounded by the bodyguards. Kurapika quickly picks up on the spider's uncharacteristic calmness despite being stuck in an obvious torture room. Uvogin starts bargaining for his life, rationalizing that the Troupe was just looking to nab the auction's products. The bodyguards are shocked at the revelation that the item warehouse was empty, and even more shocked by the fact their captive isn't lying. The shaky peace is swiftly broken by Kurapika, reminding everyone that the Troupe killed a lot of people. Uvogin reveals that killing everyone in the room was also a part of the plan, which grants him a punch to the face. Zoldyck retreats to the office to inform the higher-ups of Uvogin's capture. Turns out the Nostrade guards were able to outpace the Shadow Beast. The elite group of assassins are all dead. After gassing the captive's room with a muscle relaxer, Kurapika is allowed to leave the premises. He finally meets up with Hisoka, who texted him moments ago, to finally get his promised information on the Phantom Troupe. Surprisingly, Hisoka cuts to the chase about his own business with the spiders. He joined simply to fight one-on-one with Crollo. He proposes an alliance. Getting Crollo alone would be beneficial for them both. Back on the premises, Zoldyck leads a new group of guards to take away Uvogin. Unfortunately for him, they aren't guards at all. The Troupe members take off their disguises and free their trapped comrade. They prepare to return to headquarters, but Uvogin refuses to return until he settles up with the chain user. Said chain user is still with Hisoka, but is called back to the Nostrade headquarters by Melody, who informs him of Dalzolin's probable death. Before he leaves, Kurapika asks the clown if he knows anything about the Scarlet Eyes. Unfortunately, the massacre was before Hisoka's time in the group, but he does tell Kurapika that the Troupe will keep causing mayhem as long as Crollo lives. The Nostrade bodyguards reunite and try to strategize without the guiding hand of Dalzolin. Since he was the only one with direct contact to their real boss, Light Nostrade, they must work with Neon as if she was the true boss. The guards wake her and catch her up on the night's events. She's upset that her chance to win a mummy has been pushed back, but willingly offers up her cell phone so the guards can speak to her father. The guards argue over who must relay the bad news to Boss Nostrade until eventually Kurapika is burdened with the responsibility. Light is furious at the loss of Dalzolin, but calms down once learning the Phantom Troupe was responsible. He prompts Kurapika to create a plan of action, promoting him to leader. As Kurapika scrambles to move to another safe house, he learns that their positions are compromised by the network of Nostrade dummy companies. They're basically free game for the spiders to track. Case in point, Uvogin tortures information about Neon Nostrade's prophetic abilities out of a man, proving there was no Judas amongst the Troupe. He quickly finds a lone Kurapika, currently missing a very important call from Gon, ready to take him down for good. Despite what Killua told the crew about the Troupe, he's still on the bounty hunting grind with Leorio and Gon. Nothing has turned up after 4 hours of searching on the ground. Killua, with the mind of an assassin, suggests switching tactics to squeeze out information about an individual member. With Kurapika ghosting them, they decide to leave him out of this. Gon's sure their friend will call whenever he truly needs help. That time might come sooner than they think, since their friend is trapped with Uvogin in the same crater from hours prior. Before beginning the battle in earnest, Uvogin tries to figure out who Kurapika is. The Kurta answers by asking if the Troupe member remembers those he's slaughtered. Uvogin's apparent nonchalance towards the Kurta massacre just angers his opponent more. The menacing aura spilling out of Kurapika's body doesn't stop Uvogin for a second. He winds up a massive punch before slamming his fist to the ground. As Kurapika flies through the air with chunks of debris, he activates Chain Jail. It misses its target by mere inches, but doesn't throw Uvogin off his game. He decides to stay on offense and slams his fist into Kurapika hard. Somehow he's only taken damage to his left arm and nearly hits Uvogin with his chain again. The spider is now thrown off his game, trying to figure out what Nen his opponent possesses. He's a man possessed by rage, not thinking quite as clearly, and basically hands over the upper hand to Kurapika. Uvogin goes full throttle, creating a screen of ash and debris to charge out from. He shatters the bones in Kurapika's arm and sends him flying through the air again. But this just gives Kurapika Kurapika another advantage. He's finally able to land Chain Jail, leaving Uvagin completely vulnerable. The chain holds strong because it's imbued with two separate Nen techniques, enhancement and conjuration. Back when Kurapika was learning Nen, his goal was to maximize as many Nen techniques as possible. As a born conjurer, using enhancement wouldn't be nearly as effective in battle. With the help of his teacher, he decided to meet in the middle and conjure chains that were near unbreakable. The durability of said chains come from an unbreakable vow. The one that will kill him if he uses Chain Jail for purposes other than killing a spider. The other trick of Kurapika's sleeve comes from his scarlet eyes. They make him a specialist, the rarest of all Nen specialties. The active eyes trigger Uvagin's memories of the Kurta massacre he participated in. Still not sensing remorse from the spider, Kurapika tightens the chains further. He activates his specialist ability, Emperor Time, which grants him total proficiency in all types of Nen. He uses the thumb chain to heal his shattered arm before detailing why he sought out Uvagin as his first victim. Now that the overconfident Uvagin is in his clutches and unable to produce Nen, Kurapika can easily see how durable his chain is. He also ensures that his enhanced punch will hurt the mountain of a man. With all his tests for both the chains and Emperor Time met, he can start exacting his revenge on the spiders. First, he asks Uvagin what powers the others have, but the man refuses to give up. Finally, Kurapika nails his finishing move, a chain in the ribcage, wrapping around Uvagin's heart. The stake of retribution guarantees that Uvagin will tell the truth, or else his heart will be pierced and he will die. Again, Uvagin refuses to snitch. His heart is pierced and he dies. Elsewhere, Leorio, Killua, and Gon arrive at Yorknew City's leading auction house to view the auction catalog. They register as participants under Gon's name, his choice, and quickly find an available copy of Greed Island authenticated 3 separate ways. The minimum bid is 8.9 billion Jenny, so the crew still has a ways to go to bid on it. They decide to move their grift to message boards. They're putting up Leorio's license. They'll place an ad for it, get some cash, and possibly catch a spider, though Killua does point out that the chance of fake bids is huge. While walking back to their hotel, the group come across a timed, silent auction bazaar. Leorio isn't keen to stick around, but Gon gets drawn in by one object, a serrated knife. It's actually the knife of a prolific serial killer from a century prior, so it's secretly worth a lot. Since he's the sole bidder, and Leorio emphasizes the rush they're in, the seller lets him haggle for the knife. Leorio's master haggling skills rear their head again, and the knife is Gon's. The accidental jackpot gives Killua a brilliant idea, using Nen to sense valuable items for resale. The group heads out as Goto, finally in Yorknew City, asks for an auction catalog. Later that day, Leorio is researching at the hotel as Gon and Killua continue searching for items with Aura. The two boys are much more successful, finding 4 items with Nen, while Leorio keeps getting faulty bids on his license. They return to the auction building to add their loot to the auction, but are informed that they won't be sold during this cycle. However, the auction man does tell them they can go to a dealer's market to sell their items to middlemen. Before they go to the dealer's market, Gon and Killua decide to get the value of each item checked just in case. The merchant gives them pretty decent estimates, but nowhere near the amount they were hoping for. However, just before saying yes to the sale, a man loudly interrupts, claiming the potential buyer is lying about one item, a statue that is actually a camouflage safe. The scammer stumbles over his words as Gon and Killua stare in awe. The boys offer the man, Zepile, a meal as a thank you. He tries to pick the kids' brains about their selection of items, which leads Gon and Killua to reveal their secret Nen appraisal. Since they answered his questions, the boys ask Zepile how much their items are actually worth and how close it puts them to their minimum bid for Greed Island. Where we last left the gang in Yorknew City, they were all individually preparing for the massive, world-famous auction. Gon, Killua, and Leorio try to scrounge up cash to meet the minimum bid for the world's rarest video game, Greed Island. Kurapika, however, has much bigger issues. He's on a revenge mission against the Phantom Troupe, a mercenary group responsible for the slaughter of the Kurta. As the two boys run through the busy marketplaces of Yorknew City, Leorio slips away to look for any suspicious figures. He finds a few, Machi and Nobunaga, doing recon on the market. Leorio wonders why the spiders would hide in plain sight, but Killua realizes that this is their strategy. They are spiders after all. Gon and Killua decide to track the spiders with Leorio hanging back. The boys manage to track Machi and Nobunaga back to the troops' hideout before Nobunaga sniffs them out. Finks and Pakunoda quickly block them from an exit. Killua tries to fight off Finks, but isn't quite strong enough. The boys are briefly interrogated, then kidnapped and brought to the Troupe's actual hideout. Hisoka's upset Gon blows his cover, while Shizuku remembers them from arm wrestling in the marketplace. Nobunaga tells the boys about Uvagin's death over an arm wrestling match with Gon. Killua insists they don't know who the chain guy is, but Nobunaga tells him to can it. In a rage, Gon nearly breaks the spider's arm, which leads to Phaeton tackling him to the ground and Hisoka restraining Killua. Phaeton's murderous rage is quickly halted by a coin toss and affirmation from Pakunoda that they don't know anything about Uvagin's killer. This doesn't last long since Killua realizes who the chain dude is on the car ride back to the city. Kurapika finds himself and the other Nostradi guards in a meeting with the boss and his daughter. Since several Nostradi members are dead and all the auction goods are stolen, Boss Nostrade insists on sending his daughter back to the mansion. This was partially a ruse since the auction reopens the next day, since the Nostradi Dons hired a set of replacement assassins to take out the troops, the Zoldicks, Zeno, and Silva. Melody and Bonolenov escort Neon to the train station, but she manages to slip away and start heading for the auction. Meanwhile, the Zoldicks and their guards try to catch the Nostradi guards up on their plan. Kurapika is promoted to go with Boss Light, and thus overhears when Melody reports Neon escaped. Not only has she escaped, but she's found her way into Krallo's limo. Nobunaga stops Gon and Killua once again at the same dilapidated building from earlier. The boys have no chance of escape unless they can get the spider away from the single exit. Killua suggests he distract Nobunaga so Gon can get away, but his friend refuses. Both are willing to sacrifice themselves, but not at the expense of the other. With the power of friendship and their aura, the duo start kicking through walls to freedom. Nobunaga loses them until he hears Gon yell out. By the time he gets to the source of the sound, the boys are long gone. The rest of the Phantom Troop are on their way to the cemetery building where he's currently holding Neon hostage. They mow down a fleet of police, catching the attention of the Mafia members keeping watch over the auction building. Krallo watches over the city, entertained by the destruction unfolding. Kurapika is also watching from the temporary Nostrade headquarters when he gets a call from Gon and Killua. They tell him that they've met the Phantom Troop and want to help, but Kurapika shuts them down fast. Killing the troop is his self-imposed burden to bear. Before he has time to process that Gon and Killua want to help him, one of the capo rushes into the room in a panic. As if being puppeteered, he begins mowing down all guards in the building before his own head explodes. Gunshots and explosions ring out throughout the city. Zeno tries to wrangle the obviously frightened guards and cops before just resolving to take down the troop themselves. The two enter the auction hall basement where Krallo waits. The two mercs fly at the head spider. Despite being at a disadvantage in terms of both size and numbers, Krallo is able to get a good scratch on Silva's arm. He then conjures a cloak with a stolen ability which catches Zeno off guard for a second. He uses Dragon Head, Long Tao Shi Hua to knock Krallo off his feet. The Zoldicks notice that his opponent makes an effort to hold open his card book, realizing that his stolen abilities only work if the book remains open. With the book knocked closed, Zeno's Dragon Head chomps down on the spider, while Silva charges two energy blasts that echo from miles away. As the blast settles, Silva's transmitter rings. Illumi catches his father up to speed. The whole family's in Yorknew City. The 10 Dons of the Mafia are all dead, not true, and Krallo hired him. The two Zoldyck heads inform Krallo that he's no longer their mark and leave, giving Krallo time to rest before the auction starts. While he's recovering from his minor beatdown, the rest of the troop begins their hostile takeover of the auction, raiding the goods up for sale. Kurapika leads a fleet of guards to the auction house basement where Krallo, Shizuku, Phaeton, Franklin, and Shalnark are seemingly either dead or knocked out. While the rest of the guards do a field autopsy, Kurapika makes his way to the auction hall, just in time for the bidding to begin on the Kurta eyes, which was on the Nostrade's to-buy list. He manages to snag the eyes and starts to bring them back to Light, who is watching over the now hospitalized Neon. He gets a call from Gon, worried that he hadn't responded after their call hours earlier. Kurapika informs them that the troop is no more, but that's not quite the truth. Elsewhere, a Mafia hacker tries to run a background check on the troop, but comes up empty. All he can do is track down a place of origin, Meteor City, and establish that they're good at making themselves disappear. Right now, though, the spider's latest escape from the scene of the crime is halted by the looming mystery of the chain dude, who is happily hanging out with Gon, Leorio, and Killua. He catches his friends up to speed on the intricacies of his Nen chain and the deadly vow he made in order to use it. Killua warns him that Pakunoda can figure out his secret with just a touch, but Kurapika assures him that he's in the clear since he has a tentative alliance with Hisoka. His friends aren't convinced though, and insist they properly finish the job. Hisoka confirms as much with a text. Back at their base, Krallo begins to interrogate Nobunaga, asking him about the fortune he recently got, courtesy of Neon's stolen ability. They try to determine who the predicted deaths will be, or who should potentially sacrifice themselves despite Nobunaga's protests. Despite the Mafia no longer pursuing them, the Troupe must stay vigilant. Crawlo has each of his comrades write down their fortune, also courtesy of Neon's ability, although Hisoka is suspiciously unwilling to share his. He shares with Pakunoda, who proceeds to share with the rest of the crew. Nobunaga immediately assumes the clown sold out Uvagin, which causes the group to immediately descend into arguments. Crawlo starts his intense interrogation again with Hisoka, who answers with surprising honesty. The head spider quickly pieces together parts of the chain dude's abilities, which excites Hisoka. The real twist is that Hisoka's fortune was a fraud. He covered his actual fortune with texture surprise. He purposefully threw off the Troupe so he could fight Crawlo. Gon and Killua are preoccupied with finding cash so they can enter the Greed Island auction. Leorio and Kurapika are trying to figure out why the Mafia decided to drop the Troupe as targets. Kurapika tells Leorio that he's going to single-handedly take on the spiders. Despite the lack of monetary reward, Gon's down to help his friend too. Killua eventually caves in as well, so the group decide to plan. While Leorio and Killua kind of go along with whatever, Gon wants to split the chain's effects with Kurapika. He finishes explaining what each chain does with special emphasis on chain jail. The chain to capture the spiders, only active when his eyes glow red. With the baselines established, Kurapika negotiates the conditions for Gon to get stabbed by the chain, grateful for such a trustworthy group of friends. Killua heads out to scout for the Troupe, seeing the many manifested skyscrapers manifested by Kurapika. The rest of the crew, now including Melody, continue scouting the town for any rogue spiders. No such luck yet, since the spiders are still in their hideout piecing together who to hunt and how the chain dude ties into the Nostrati's presence at the auction. Kurapika senses their target is near. The spiders split into teams and take to the streets. Killua, Melody, Gon, and Kurapika find Crawlo's team of spiders at the train station, sprinting towards the hotel that the Nostratis are staying in. Crawlo, Machi, and Shizuku hang behind, sensing what they assume to be the chain dude. They're half right. However, before Kurapika can activate chain jail, Gon leaps out of hiding to cause a distraction so his friend can attack at a better time. Killua gets roped in, which results in both of them being kidnapped for a second time. Meanwhile, Pakunoda, Kurapika, and Nobunaga harass Squalla for more chain dude information. His mostly sealed lips and righteous anger are rewarded with a swift decapitation. Pakunoda managed to get the necessary information and literally shoots it at her comrades. She also alerts Crawlo, who's hanging in the hotel lobby like he doesn't have two children held hostage. Luckily for them, Leorio is calling in updates from the couch across. Pakunoda and Nobunaga come rushing in, acting like this is some sort of friendly reunion. The boys try to avoid Pakunoda's truth-extracting touch, but aren't quite successful. Luckily, a well-timed phone alarm gives them the chance to squirm loose and kick her away. It's a short-lived escape since Nobunaga grabs Gon, but Crawlo isn't there. Pakunoda grabs a note that was thrown through the window. She's able to see that Crawlo is being held hostage and bound in chains by Kurapika and Melody. She tries to come up with a plan, but something seemingly stops her from taking action. Regardless, the two groups meet at an airstrip for a hostage negotiation. Crawlo for Gon. Using chain jail, Kurapika removes Crawlo's ability to use Nen. He also stops Pakunoda from disclosing anything she witnessed with the Judgment Chain. This was kind of a pointless move. As soon as she tests the limits of the Judgment Chain, she dies. Kurapika doesn't get to see his part in the death of another spider though, since he faints from the constant activation of his scarlet eyes. But even though he didn't finish the job, Kurapika stopped the spiders. Gon and Killua, however, still have a copy of Greed Island to nab. With Crawlo taken down, Gon and Killua can finally pursue the reason they came to Yorknew City. In the mess of the Yorknew auction, their search for the elusive and dangerous video game Greed Island was sidelined. Although getting a copy of the game seemed like the hardest step in their journey, Gon and Killua have no idea of the challenges Greed Island has in store for them. After failing to get their copy of Greed Island through the Yorknew auction, since Phytan and Fink stole an extra copy, Gon and Killua have to find another way to enter the game, so they try to bargain with the auction winners Batera and his assistant Sesguera to play the game on their behalf. While their initial offer is turned down, they're offered the chance to test and train for the opportunity to enter the game. With their new Nen abilities, Gon and Killua are able to both scare Sesguera and win 2 of the coveted spots to play Greed Island on Batera's behalf. They're corralled to an old castle and a basement full of computers, a scheme to mine as much out of the RPG as possible. Gon is one of the first to enter, finally using the save file that Ging left him in in the mystery box back on Whale Island, perhaps one step closer to finding his father. A strange android-esque woman greets Gon, delivering a message from his father left on the save file. Apparently Ging had a hand in creating Greed Island, and the reason he wanted to share it with Gon was just to flex. She explains the rules of the game to Gon, including the seemingly endless card collection system. He exits to a wide, grassy plain with seemingly nobody in sight. Killua eventually catches up to Gon, and the two start trekking across the plain, trying to make sense of the game's rules. They eventually cross a more experienced player, eager to engage the duo in a card battle. Unfortunately, his gambit on taking advantage of a few kids backfires horribly once Killua fights back and scares the player off. Back in the real world, Shalnark tells the Troupe there's a way to potentially bring the whole crew into the game. Eventually, Gon and Killua find themselves in Antakiba, a town full of missions to gain precious items and rewards. While traversing the town square, the duo learn more rules to the game and limitations with the card system. They don't have much time to enjoy the town since they find a crowd gathered around the bifurcated body of another of Batera's hired players. They also stumble across a man, Nikas, claiming to know a foolproof way to beat the game. Killua questions his motives, but the boys decide to follow Nikas to his crew. A bespectacled man gives them a rundown on what caused the death of Batera's player. There's a mystery killer, known only as the Bomber, that's been terrorizing the game for the last decade. They're offered a place in the Alliance, as are two of Batera's other players, but Gon turns down the offer. The duo leave the meeting with another member of the crew, a girl in a frilly dress trailing behind them. The two wander back to Antakiba and stumble upon a rock-paper-scissors tournament, an opportunity for their first real card. Killua wins the tournament. They head to another NPC shop to trade in a previously useless card for a map and get hints for monster hunting. This is an RPG after all. They leave Antakiba to hunt, but are quickly stopped by the little girl that's been following them. She asks to join, Killua shoots her down, and she's forced to plead her case. An annoying girl isn't going to be their biggest issue for long, though. Shalnark, Kurapika, and Shizuku have made their way into Greed Island, and they've already figured out something huge. Greed Island is an actual location, not VR. Phytan and Finks, two more Troupe members, found this out too. They're already out killing players for cards. Gon and Killua are still unaware of all that. They're running through a forest with their little stalker in tow. The trio are ambushed by ninjas for their first side quest, trading cash and clothes for information. With slightly less cash and clothing, Gon and Killua head back out into the Badlands, their first dungeon. They quickly defeat the monsters and are left feeling confident until the first mini-boss shows up. The girl waiting a few steps behind notes that the kids' inexperience is causing them to miss the monster's obvious weak spot. However, before they can take down the mini-boss, a collection of smaller beasts overwhelm them. They blow through horde after horde of monsters with the girl watching in mild frustration at their raw talent. Eventually, their skill fails to overwhelm an enemy, causing the girl to start coaching from the sidelines. She offers to train them, which the boys indignantly refuse. However, the girl, Biscuit, is no slouch. She's a longtime professional hunter and trained wing. She instructs the boys to lay low as another player stalks them from hidden cracks in the ravine. Kids with both Nen and strong combat abilities are a rare sight, so Gon and Killua are walking targets for unsavory Greed Island players. Killua rejects Biscuit's training, but she's not able to go far before the man with the stalker attacks her with scissors. Biscuit beats him to a pulp and uses the short fight as a teachable moment for Gon and Killua. Impressed by her skills, the boys agree to let her mentor them. Their first training exercise, defeat the scissor-carrying bounty hunter Benolt in 2 weeks or less. By the end of the 12-day period, Benolt is begging Gon to take him out of his misery. The trio decide to head to Macedora so the boys can grab their first spell cards. Biscuit realizes that she's not gaming the system by making the boys backtrack over and over to the Badlands, as the game rewards those that complete the tasks in an intended order. With the monster cards collected and the boys notably stronger, Biscuit decides to finally train the boys in proper combat with Nen in an intense game of rock, paper, scissors. In another part of the Badlands, a massive group of Greed Island players, a rival to Tsezguera's team, gather to put their cards together. As the meeting winds down, a seemingly meek man pipes up. He admits that he is the bomber and everyone in the cavern has a live bomb on them. There are only 2 ways to defuse them: touch the man and say, "I caught the bomber," easier said than done, or surrender 81 of the 90 specified slot cards to him. The gamer squad fumbles for a unified solution to their predicament. They become more panicked and the clocks on their chest explosives tick down faster. The bomber retreats and releases the players from their explosives through mass detonation. However, the bomber still still isn't the biggest threat to Greed Island. The Phantom Troupe is quickly approaching by boat. The Troupe successfully land on the island and immediately run into Razor, one of the game's creators, who recognizes them as uninvited guests. Finks threatens their return through traditional means. Razor uses an exclusive spell card to teleport them back to their boat before blowing it clean off the coast with his volleyball. Back in the makeshift training arena, Gon and Killua have made good progress with their Nen signatures. So good, in fact, Biscuit decides to reward them with a New Year's celebration. This is where the boys learn that time passes the same on Greed Island. This poses a problem for Killua, who still needs to apply again for the next Hunter exam. Biscuit decides to pause training so Killua can temporarily leave the game to meet the registration deadline. Back in the real world, Killua emerges from the Hunter exam as the sole victor. The trio reunite, catching each other up on their progress. As they go through the large spell card collection, they decide to try the contact card. The list seems innocuous until one name sticks out: Krallo Lusilfer. Elsewhere on the island, the spiders are back and trying to decipher the same mystery as Gon, Killua, and Biscuit. How did a Nenless Krallo enter Greed Island, and what is he there for? Each group eventually learns bits and pieces of the Krallo mystery. Biscuit and Gon figure that Krallo is trying to find a way to get his Nen back, which the man himself confirms to Killua. As the Phantom Troupe learns, Hisoka is the one operating under Krallo's name under the promised reward of a fight once Krallo's Nen is restored. Despite this revelation, Biscuit maintains that playing the game should be the boys' focus. They continue on with their side questing, slowly filling up their card binder. Once they're sufficiently stocked, Biscuit notes that the last few cards will involve them interacting with other players, like the bomber and his crew. They're in the woods torturing a man for cards when they're contacted by Cesgera for a deal. The bomber is unimpressed by the terms of the deal and attacks Cesgera's troops. The impromptu raid is successful, and now the bomber's team nearly has a full binder. Since the crew is now close to clearing the game, all the other teams have officially gone into panic mode. The other groups of players scheme about how to stop them from winning. Eventually, the short list of what cards to monopolize and keep away from the bomber's group. Gon and Killua find a lead to a pirate's den. Killua quickly dispatches the largest pirate by setting him ablaze and beating him silly. After earning their respect, the boys are led to a gym where the dodgeball master Razor is itching to start a multi-sport tournament. The pirates are tough, so the boys and Biscuit try to get as many points as they can while still gathering information. They rejoin the larger group, biding their time to retry the quest. Another member in Batera's party, Gorenu, pulls the boys aside to help build a stronger party. They decide to deduce whoever has the Krallo gamertag who is choosing to not play the game. After traveling through the forest, they stumble upon Hisoka, nude and creepy as ever. He admits to operating under Krallo's name to find the man himself, figure out how to reverse his binding vow, and finally be able to spar with him. Despite everyone else's insistence, Biscuit agrees to help Hisoka if he helps them in return. Everyone's on edge at Hisoka's cagey behavior as they enter the city of Ai. They meet Cesguera, who asks to join the party. The group return to Razor's gym, finally able to beat Bobopo. He's a sore loser, which results in his death via Razor's dodgeball. Gon's upset that Razor killed a supposed friend and is even more shocked to learn that the pirate was an actual criminal. He's even more floored to learn that Razor supposedly worked alongside his father. At the mention of Ging's name, Razor immediately tells Gon and the party that he won't be going easy on them. It's a promise he keeps, with the ball he hurls at Gon full force leaving the kid's hands nearly broken. Even with him using Ken to block, Gon, technically still in, rejoins Hisoka and Killua on the field to take out Razor. Gon's finally able to take out Razor's largest teammate, but he's still not satisfied. He launches the ball with Janken, Rock, but Razor manages to spike it away. Luckily, Hisoka and his bungee gum help him recover and take the dodgeball master out. They start the second round despite Killua's pretty busted hands. To deal the killing blow, Razor maxes out his aura and spikes the ball at Gon, Hisoka, and Killua. However, with their quick thinking and combined strength, the trio stop the ball. Razor respects the hell out of them, especially Gon's tenacity. He affirms that Gon is truly Ging's son. With all bets off the table, the match continues at lightning speed. Hisoka even steps up and makes sure that Gon gets his flawless victory. The gamble pays off and Gon's team wins the extreme dodgeball match. This grants the team more clues for the crucial cards, but Razor promises Gon a little extra information about his father. Razor tells Gon that he, like the pirates, was a death row inmate caught by Ging. When he was asked to work on Greed Island, Ging made Razor promise to give it his all whenever his then baby son made his way to Greed Island. He's now finally fulfilled that promise. The crew make their way to the secret beach to find their first missing card. Hisoka, sufficiently given an adrenaline high, leaves the party and aligns with the spiders again. He returns to the Phantom Troupe. They plan to send him to negotiate with the Nen exorcist. However, the clown gets distracted by an unseen shadowy presence. Machi and Nobunaga introduce him to Kaluto Zoldyck, the newest member of the Phantom Troupe. To make matters worse, the bomber has caught on to the party's schemes. Since Gon accidentally antagonized the bombers group, the party only has a week to heal up and finish collecting the exclusive cards, or 3 weeks if they split up. Turns out the only reason Sesguera suggested this was to stab the boys and Biscuit in the back. This backfires immediately as they're ambushed by the bomber. Sesguera's team engages in an epic card battle. They take the gamble of ambushing the bomber's crew and avoid using contact. The bomber starts taking hostages to lure out Sesguera's fighters. They don't fall for the trap and instead begin teleporting their way all over the game map. This distraction gives them 12 days to hold off the antagonistic bomber crew, or so they think. Turns out Netero, their sponsor, has abandoned them. He has no need to beat Greed Island anymore, so the mission is over. This means that Gon, Killua, and Biscuit have less time than expected to train high levels of emitter techniques, heal up, and collect the remaining 30 cards. The bombers group immediately find Gon, Killua, and Biscuit. They propose to clear the game on all of their parts, a shady deal that Killua immediately calls them out on. Once the bomber starts threatening them, the trio teleport to Macedora to evade the sadistic trio. Despite their best efforts, they have to resort to a fight. Killua knocks out the accomplice going for Biscuit, giving her the chance to run, while Gon immediately gets targeted by the bomber. Biscuit, being deceptively powerful, easily dispatches the accomplice, tailing her. Thanks to his assassin training and some trick yo-yos, Killua is able to put down the second accomplice. Gon sets the terms for the battle, and the duo lay out what cards they have. The bomber tries to ambush Gon, but the kid quickly blocks it. Gon charges up his Ren, putting Biscuit's long training sessions to use, and aims to rile up the bomber and get him to use his ability. While the bomber lands a few good hits on Gon, he can't break the kid's spirit. No matter how much his opponent smacks him around or taunts him, Gon never backs down. Even when the bomber threatens and nearly succeeds at blowing off both of Gon's hands, he never stops fighting. Despite his wounded arms, he winds back a Janken, rock, and blows back his opponent before following up with a swift kick to the jaw. He then threatens to use Paladin's Necklace, a card with the high chance of blowing up his opponent. The bomber thinks it's a bluff, but still plans on crushing the kid's windpipe regardless. Again, this fails to stop Gon. He launches another Janken, rock, sending them both into a pit trap. Gon manages to save himself, but the bomber isn't so lucky. He's finished off by another Janken, rock. With the bomber's crew incapacitated, Gon, Killua, and Biscuit collect their remaining cards. Since they now have 99 out of the 100 specified slot cards, the Game Master announces an island-wide quiz with the prize being the coveted card number 00. The test begins immediately with Biscuit choosing to sit it out. Gon wins the final quest and chooses to bring his party to Greed Castle. The Nen Exorcist and Hisoka watch them go, shocked they were able to subdue the bomber. Upon entering Greed Castle, Gon meets two of Ging's co-conspirators in the creation of Greed Island. List gives Gon more constructive information on the game's creation, while Duan takes the opportunity to talk about how much of an arrogant prick Ging is. Unfortunately, neither know Ging's current whereabouts. Gon's victory is then celebrated with a parade before he's made to submit 3 cards in one final challenge. After much deliberation with Killua and Biscuit, Gon goes to the Game Master Elena with his 3 cards. She gives him back his ring and sends him back out to the real world. The boys bid farewell to Biscuit before walking off into the forest. They spot a man fishing, Ging's old student Kite. Hunter x Hunter's Chimera Ant arc is arguably one of the greatest pieces of storytelling in shonen manga. The long battle between the Hunter Association's finest and the Chimera Ants is suspenseful, action-packed, and provides a perfect pin for Gon Freaks' character arc. After finishing Greed Island, Gon and Killua emerge to meet Kite, Ging's former student, and the man that introduced Gon to hunters when he was a young child. Kite tells the boys that he's currently part of a team monitoring Chimera Ants as a part of a biological survey. They've missed the queen ant, who's hunting in preparation to produce a new king. They do, however, find an ant leg, which they bring back to the lab for further research. Kite's team realizes that the creature is around 2 meters tall and, concerningly, can eat people. Her soldiers are patrolling villages, looking to meet the queen's demand of 50 humans a day to feed her and her elite soldiers. Kite and his team track where the queen is migrating to, assuming that she'll build a nest soon. After extensive security checks, the crew enters the NGL region. Kite guesses that the amount of guards monitoring them means the ants are nearby. He's not wrong. One ant catches and kills another hunter working with Pakal and Ponzu, who took the exam with Gon and Killua. Ponzu manages to send a message to Kite before her death at the hands of another ant, Zazan. They flee back to the suspiciously abandoned encampment before running into yet another ant soldier who immediately starts swinging. Both the soldier and Kite assume the boys are outmatched, but they're proven wrong quickly thanks to a thunderbolt and Jajanken rock. The soldier goes running scared to his superiors, unsure of the power Gon and Killua exerted on him. This only inspires them to find these rare humans for their queen. Gon, Killua, and Kite are trying to find them first though, but instead stumble on an underground narcotics factory. They also find another trio of ants, one of which with 2 domesticated humans that it mercilessly kills in front of the trio. It sicks the other 2 ants on the group to make them replacement pets. Killua decapitates one of the ants while Gon unleashes Jajankin, scissors on the other. Kite swiftly ends the human pet ant with his weapon, Mad Clown Crazy Slots. The royal guard, Hagya, senses the deaths, placing a target on the trio's back. They soon encounter another group of ants who offer a 3-part ultimatum: fight, escape, or surrender. Gon is the first of the trio to square up with the ants. Killua notes how, despite their big game talk, the ants' fighting skills are limited. The trio easily beat the rest of the troops. Elsewhere, Rammet, the first ant that Gon and Killua fought, returns to the cave with a new power. His aura is awakened. Colt and Pengi plan to start studying Nen and take him to Hagya and the other royal guards. These rares are what the queen craves, although she'll settle for 250 regular humans, but they're hard to capture. Pakal managed to avoid being cooked by hiding an antidote in his molar and camouflaging himself in a pile of skulls. Rammet and the ants don't notice as the menacing aura of Neferpitu fills the cavern. They alert the other ants to Pakal's location. Neferpitu extracts the basics of Nen from his semi-reanimated corpse so the ants can begin learning how to harness aura. Neferpitu's aura is so strong that Kite feels it far from the cavern. He tells the boys to run as the ant launches himself at the hunter. Kite tries to fend off Neferpitu. Gon tries to help before Killua knocks him out before he does anything stupid. Kite's team is upset that the boys left. They've already called Chairman Netero for reinforcements. Killua tells them that Neferpitu might beat them, although he's shut down by both Netero and his bodyguard Morel. The chairman tells them to find and beat 2 assassins before he'll entertain more conversation. Killua is understandably upset about how the day went, but Gon encourages him to keep going so they can get stronger and save Kite, although they're too late. The boys go to a nearby town and find the first assassin, Palm, the apprentice to Netero's other guard, Knav. She awkwardly tells them that they have a month to take down 2 other assassins, Knuckle and Shoot. They're surprised when Biscuit shows up, telling them that Netero is just being unreasonable. She starts her tedious training methods back up. After their first day of maintaining Ren for 3 hours, they go to fight Knuckle. He's painfully insulted that Knav is having him fight 2 kids, but challenges them to try and knock him over easily done with a Jajankin rock. Netero, Knav, and Morel try to lure ants. Neferpitu and Shia Poof, another high-ranking guard, refuse to take the bait. He retreats back to the hideout, spearheading planning a raid on the nearby towns. However, Netero keeps mowing down troops that Knav and Morel direct towards his secret hiding spot, training to get to full strength before the queen births her world-ending heir. Despite how much closer Netero gets to full power, he realizes that the hunters are outnumbered and outmanned. It's possible that another few hunters will go the way of Pakal, Ponzu, and Kite in order to defeat the ants. Considering the new Chimera Ant King is coming sooner than expected, and he's already demanding a feast of humans, Netero may be entirely correct. Gon and Killua meet up with Knuckle again for a rematch. Knuckle puts up more of a fight this time, and tells Gon he'll stop him from using Jajankin rock since it's super flawed. Gon doesn't appreciate the patronizing attitude or the fact that Knuckle is still holding out. He doubles down with a weak Jajankin paper followed by a stronger Jajankin rock. Before it connects, Gon knocks himself out by burning through his aura. As Gon recharges, Killua fights Biscuit in her true form. The boys return back to the forest clearing. Gon for another rematch with Knuckle and Killua for his first against Shoot. Knuckle unleashes Hakaware Bankruptcy Chapter 7. For each second that passes, Gon accrues interest on aura he's borrowed from his opponent. Overusing aura means going into debt, which means Gon needs to beat Knuckle fast, or risk going into Zetsu until he gets the snot beat out of him. Meanwhile, Killua and Shoot start their standoff. Since Shoot's Nen ability only works after he touches his opponent, Killua dodges the manifested floating hands. He's able to do it without breaking much of a sweat, but the effort was useless since the hands were decoys. Suddenly, Killua goes through some sort of partial paralysis. Illumi's spell is active again. He tries to fight through it, but Shoot is still able to get the left side of his face, literally. Both boys lose their respective fights. All 4 reunite with Netero, Knav, and Morel. The chairman and his guards lead Colt to their headquarters to determine what their chances against the Chimera Ant King are and try to heal the nearly dead queen, but fail. Colt does save an unexpected second baby and promises neither him nor the baby will eat a human. After Knuckle and Shoot leave to confront the ants, Gon breaks down. He can't handle feeling so weak. Seeing his best friend cry moves Killua to tears as well, resolving to protect Gon until his Nen is back before splitting up. The duo go to Palm's hideout to train where Knuckle calls to tell them they have Kite. However, just outside, Meruem and his troops, as well as rogue agents like Chitu, are massacring their way through townsfolk so Meruem can build up his aura. Despite reports of the massacres on the news, Gon and Palm head into a nearby forest for a date with Killua chaperoning. His focus soon shifts to nearby Chimera Ant aura, forcing him to think on his feet on how to discreetly protect his friend. He tears into the forest to lure the ant away, but Rammet itches for a rematch. Killua has the urge to run away, but he fights Illumi's influence to take the fight head-on. With the power of friendship coursing through him, he rips out Illumi's needle from his brain. Finally, uninhibited, he rips off Rammet's head and crushes it. He returns to find Palm punishing Gon. She tries to stab him for interrupting, but he's easily able to dodge it, grab his friend, and run away from the freaky Yandere. Morel and Knuckle find themselves in a handicap match against Cheetu, with Shoot watching from the sidelines. Even though they're strong fighters, Cheetu's speed makes landing a good hit near impossible. It isn't until Knuckle activates his pot clean and begins putting the ant in Nen debt that the ant gives up. They return to Gon and Killua with Kite, heavily scarred and near feral. Gon lets the puppetered Kite beat the snot out of him as a punishment. With Kite subdued, the party leaves for East Gorteau to prepare for the impending ant invasion. Some of the ants, like Hagya, are already slaughtering in broad daylight. Killua goes to scour the forest area for ants while Knuckle and Shoot take to the trees. Back in the city, Morel and Nav start trying to pad the ranks with a call for temporary hunters. This plan is immediately halted when the government of East Gorteau enacts martial law as Killua discovers a horde of shallow graves. Hagya, now Liol's crew, charges through the forest, chasing Killua. The kid dodges a barrage of attacks from both air and ground and returns them in kind. His momentum is quickly stopped by a hungry, oversized flea with a tracking device. He's in bullet hell from two ants with giant blow dart rifles in a Squid Game situation thanks to the Ortho siblings. In order to track the trajectory, Killua lets himself get hit. The gambit works and he starts to hunt down the snipers. However, he then winds up as a dartboard for the elder Ortho sibling. The game of darts nearly kills him, but he smartly managed to avoid the final dart skewering his head. He decapitates the siblings, but is still in pretty bad shape, silently apologizing to Gon for not being good enough. Luckily, one of the ants he spared repays the favor and takes him to a hospital. Gon is nowhere near Killua, though. He's in the desert with another ant that positions itself as a member of the guard. However, Melioran is a rogue agent who also wants to take down Meruem. He decides to reveal his true intentions to Gon, who, predictably, believes him immediately. Melioran quickly realizes that Gon is genuinely open to helping him. He brings Melioran back to Knuckle and Shoot, who are waiting to make the call for reinforcements. Meruem, however, is busy killing every aristocrat that loses to him in Gungi. That streak ends when a young blind Gungi champion named Komugi defeats him several times in a row. He makes a deadly wager for their final match, but quickly backtracks after learning Komugi's dedication to the game. In a rare moment of humility, he sacrifices his arm. P2 is summoned to reattach it, and Komugi is kept on the palace staff. Back in East Gorteau, Morel is in a rematch with Leol and Cheetu, the latter noticeably missing the pot clean. Cheetu seems to be an exorcist now, which throws off Morel's plans. His disorientation only grows when the ant teleports them to a savanna. Morel is now stuck in a game of tag with a cheetah where the only way out is winning. He's surprisingly chill about the whole situation, unlike his partner who's being hunted down by Leol and P2. Turns out Morel was rightfully chill. He used Cheetu's hubris against him. Morel returns them to the city where he meets back up with Kanav. For whatever reason, perhaps because P2 is called to the king's chambers, the puppet troops vanish. It's just Morel and Leol left underground in an old bomb shelter. The two behemoth stoners duke it out, their auras flooding the whole space. Leol acts like he has the upper hand, but in the end, Morel outsmarts and overpowers the ant. Nav plummets to the entrance of the ant's palace, seeing if the palace is truly as understaffed as he believes it to be. As he sneaks through the palace with ease before seeing a massive cloud of N, he plants markers for Palm before running back to the desert. He wonders how Gon and Killua were able to stand the oppressive dread of the N before praying that Palm, currently posing as a sex worker, manages to survive. Meruem's still busy with his Gungi standoff, much to Poof's dismay. Komugi requests her first break, which leaves Meruem to meet with his three top guards to ensure that Komugi will be kept safe, seemingly aware that their methods for choosing what humans live and die are flawed. He tries to kill Komugi regardless, but can't. As selection time comes, he debates the reason for his existence. Killua wakes up in a back alley hospital, mostly healed but disoriented. With his wounds miraculously mostly healed, he heads out to find Gon, Knuckle, and Melioran with Ikalgo in tow. The crew plan their intrusion into the Ant's palace, hoping that Morel and Kanav will return. Morel calls the team with Colt on the line. They learn of the king's self-injury, which freaks out Morel. The Ant Guard continues their selection plan, not letting on that their king is having second guesses. Kanav, now with white hair, catches that the masses entering East Gorteau are being hypnotized by Poof's falling scales. The team of hunters reunites in their Nen bunker, giving a few hours to hear from Palm before storming the palace. Neither group anticipates two old men falling from the sky. Chairman Netero and Zeno Zoldyck's 11th hour entrance is picked up by P2, who seems too mesmerized. He turns off his inn to prepare for battle, which gives Zeno the opportunity to create a distraction with a rain of dragons. However, P2's cat-like senses allow him to easily pick out the bigger threat, Netero, with ease. He does not anticipate the 100-type Zhoniin Bodhisattva that hits him point blank, sending him careening backwards midair. P2 uses toy repair Dr. Blythe to save himself from crashing through the palace ceiling. Using nothing but the stored energy in his leg muscles, P2 propels himself to the second floor of the palace. Zeno's dragons, however, breach the palace as the ground team of hunters start their attack. P2 finds his king cradling the gravely wounded Komugi. Yuppie blocks the stairs, sprouting multiple extra sets of arms to protect his king. Between his mutation and the sudden invasion of Dragon Dive, Shoot is paralyzed in overstimulation and unable to attack. Gon immediately steps up in his place with Knuckle close behind with his pot clean at the ready. Yuppie is still able to destroy the staircase, injuring Shoot with falling debris. Knuckle doubles down, but Hakawari isn't working fast enough. It does buy Shoot enough time to gather his bearings and launch himself at the ant, finally firing on all cylinders. Despite losing a leg and most of an arm, Shoot continues beating down Yuppie, but his body is too close to giving out. With the pot clean finally active, Knuckle takes control of the fight while Melioron goes to see if Shoot is still functional. Seeing his comrade is near death, Melioron goes to seek help. Killua takes out a few soldiers while Gon sees the foreboding cloud of N from the throne room. They run to the roof, shocked to see Zeno. The elder Zoldyck tells Killua to make the call before disappearing into the night. He leaves the palace grounds only to run into Chitu. The ant taunts him, wishing he had a better opponent. However, he's quickly shut up when Silva falls from the sky, crushing him beneath his fist. The two Zoldicks leave. Zeno tells his son that Killua probably removed Illumi's needle. Gon goes to find P2, who is still healing Komugi. While Killua is mostly shocked that the sadistic ant is acting so protective over a human, Gon can only see P2 dismembering Kite. P2 submits to the boys, trying to appeal to their empathy, but Gon's rage overpowers his usual willingness to trust others. To prove he's willing to do anything for the boys so long as they leave Komugi to heal, P2 crushes his right arm. The ant's dedication to healing, after all he did to Kite, sends Gon off the edge. P2 promises that it'll only take an hour to heal Komugi, then he'll help find Kite and do the same. Gon sits, intent on staring daggers into P2 the whole hour. Melioron appears, asking Killua to help take care of Yuppie, since Knuckle's plan of tiring the ant out seems reckless. Knuckle finds Shoot lying on the floor, discarded like dirt. He vows to avenge his friend's honor, silently apologizing to his mentor for his ego. Frustrated by no word from either of his companions, Yuppie leaves only to get ambushed by Knuckle. The ant's frustration boils over, causing him to rapidly grow in size and level part of the palace. Knuckle realizes that he might be able to make the ant upset to the point of exploding. He tries to wait until Yuppie is in Nen debt, but Shoot's delicate state pushes him to go. He winds up a punch aimed to pop the expanded Yuppie, but it was a trap. It seems that it's over for Knuckle until a lightning strike from Killua and Melioron hits nearby. It's enough to distract Yuppie, made even worse when Killua incapacitates him with Godspeed. Morel is stuck in Poof's on fog, debating if the ant is trying to trick him. He figures that Poof's pupa was an illusion, teleporting to finally fight. The ant has more tricks up his sleeve though, splitting into hundreds of clones. One manages to steal Morel's giant pipe, leaving him with only deep purple as a defense. He sees the rematch between Knuckle and Yuppie, helping to rile the ant to his maximum size. He turns to find Poof, but the fully mutated Yuppie keeps on fighting. He mows through clones of Knuckle and Morel, but soon his aura runs out and he's left paralyzed. He slashes at Morel, but Melioron is able to hide him before the killing blow. Knuckle tries to get Yuppie to fight him while Melioron tries to get Morel to safety. Pretty much all their plans backfire. Yuppie leaves to protect the king, and Knuckle is left staring in agony. Gnav appears to take Morel back to the hideout where Shoot is healing, confident that the guards are just as screwed as they are. Poof bursts onto the roof to confront P2. Gon commands him to stay put, and the ant surprisingly agrees, so long as P2 explains where the king is and why he's healing Komugi. The king is with Netero at a military test site, perfect for both of them to battle with no accidental casualties. Meruem asks why Netero is so insistent on fighting, since he'll definitely die. Netero just wants the challenge. The king tries to keep things civil, but the chairman just hits him with 100 type Zhoniin Bodhisattva. Even still, Meruem refuses to engage with Netero until he promises to tell the king his name. Netero hits the king with his strongest attack, careening the two of them into a hidden chamber. The chairman declares it to be Meruem's tomb. The king is left in awe at the power of the 99th hand. Netero is offended by the lack of effort and keeps attacking, which finally spurs Meruem into action. He rips off Netero's leg and asks to learn his name. Netero's able to seal the amputation, but his advantage over Meruem is lost. The king's Gungi training gave him insane foresight. He pulls off Netero's left arm, but the chairman is still able to harness Zero Netero hand. Even that barely makes a scratch on the ant. Out of a combination of weakness and admiration, Netero tells the king his name before he burns up from overusing his nen. Back in the palace, Killua finally finds the missing palm altered by the ants. She asks to go see Gon, but Killua doesn't trust her and refuses. Her murderous rage is no longer held back, and she chases him down looking more monstrous than ever. Killua realizes that fighting her is a waste of time, so he decides to appeal to her crush on Gon instead. At first, his promise to go to Gon is a lie, but the more he goes on, the more he breaks down. A mini poof puppeting Palm, thanks to P2's experimentations, tells her to attack while he's weak, but Palm refuses, regaining control of her free will. A bomb goes off from underground, producing a rose-shaped cloud that emits a poison. Knuckle stumbles upon a segment of Poof, half his face morphed into that of an actual ant. He and Youpi run to Ground Zero, finding their king an incinerated husk. To save his life, the duo feed bits of themselves to the Meruem, which leaves the king alive, knowing his name but not much else. As Meruem is reborn, Gon senses that Komugi is almost done healing. He demands P2 get up and come to the city with him as the remaining group reach the palace roof. Knuckle offers to track P2 with Hakawere, but Gon declines, instead choosing to bring Komugi along as insurance. Poof Clone finds the group and sees an opportunity to kill the human and keep the king ruthless. He splits, but can't do much damage to Knuckle. The team leads him underground, cloaked by Melioron's invisibility, leaving Killua and Komugi out as bait. The tiny clones do even less against Killua and Godspeed. The rest of the team is caught in the crowd of hypnotized masses looking for Poof's core. Palm senses something's wrong with Gon, who's currently looking for Kite's body. Poof's clone mimics Komugi, claiming they're safe. Gon commands Pito to heal Kite, but the ant tells him that he can't heal a dead man. Palm feels and relays Gon's grief to Killua as the other Poof clone taunts them. Palm takes Komugi, letting Killua sprint to his broken friend before P2 kills him. Overwhelmed by shame, grief, and anger, Gon activates all his aura to reach godlike power, his body transmuting into that of a grown man. P2 activates Terpsichora, but it's not enough to stop Gon from kicking him to the ground and slamming him with a Jojic and rock. The ant's body flies, colliding with a mountain on the edge of the forest, miles and miles away. Killua makes it to Gon's location to see his giant form beating P2 to a pulp. Terpsichora rears its ugly head, strengthened after P2's death, and severs Gon's forearm before his body burns up from nen overuse. Gon slams P2's corpse with his severed arm, declaring he'll be with Kite. Meruem, Poof, and Youpi still live. The king feels a strange lack, believing his guards to be hiding a secret from him. He demands that Poof reveal his secret, his anger radiating outside the palace and into the crowd of brainwashed masses. Poof decides to distract the king by turning their hunt for P2 into a game, giving him and Youpi time to kill the girl. Meruem finds a broken Gungi piece, awakening part of his memories. Poof flies over the forest, finding Youpi's body. Meruem crouches to examine, goading Poof into ending their game since P2 is obviously nowhere to be found. The bomb's poison takes hold of Poof, causing him to bleed out as his comrade did. Meruem releases his N in a flash, teleporting to his last remaining soldier, the now traitor Welfin, who's been helping Icalgo and Palm. His aura causes Welfin to age a century in a second. He utters Komugi in desperation. Meruem stares daggers into Poof as his memories of his closest comrade flood back. The king makes his way to where Palm protects his friend, surrendering to the human population. He knows his time is limited, so he asks to spend his last moments with Komugi. Palm agrees so long as she can keep watch. They pass away in each other's arms, succumbing to the bomb's poison after a final game of Gungi. With the infestation over, international rescue efforts flee to the affected regions with Morel and Kanav heavily involved. Morel learns from Colt that the king's twin sister is alive and asking to be called Kite. Gon is on life support, a literal husk of a person, with guilt-ridden Killua waiting dutifully outside. Most importantly, a council of 12 hunters the Zodiacs meet to choose a new chairman. Saying that the war against the Chimera Ants left the Hunter Association shaken up is a massive understatement. Longtime leader Isaac Netero is dead, and several hunters like Gon and Kite are severely injured. The squabble for power and influence in a post-Netero Hunter Association isn't the only shakeup. A whole new, previously banned area of the globe is now up for grabs. Hunter election. With the death of the chairman in the fight against the Chimera Ants, a successor must be elected immediately. Netero's council, the Zodiacs, scrambles to set up an election. The situation is so dire that the elusive Ging Freaks finally appears in the flesh. Also present is Pariston Hill, the smarmy vice chairman. Both cause the other 10 Zodiacs to bristle and pivot to randomly choosing rules for the election. Thanks to some meddling a few days prior, Ging's rules are selected. With the election rules semi-agreed upon, the election process is underway. The first few rounds are a bust, since only 88% of hunters voted, leaving room for more infighting between the Zodiacs. One of the absentees is Killua, who has returned to his family home for his little sibling Alluka, the same sibling Illumi recruits Hisoka to assassinate. Alluka is the only person that could reverse Gon's deadly Nen contract. However, their Nen ability, 3 demands for 1 wish, has some pretty deadly consequences and strict rules to follow, but Killua knows the intricacies of his sibling's abilities. Alluka is just a kid, the one that causes the mass death is Nanika. He uses this information to negotiate their release from Alluka's cell. They set out for where Gon lies in the hospital. They don't get far before the butler Goto stops them. At Silva's request, the duo must have a few bodyguards join them. Killua requests Canary come along, since Alluka needs another feminine presence, while 2 much more severe bodyguards approach courtesy of Silva. Their plans of joining are quickly reversed when Nanika starts making demands of Tsuboni. To keep her from asking for more, the butler elects to stay on the compound. As the crew drives off the Zoldyck compound, Killua gets a frantic call from Leorio. Goto picks up the call, leading to a tense negotiation between the 2 hotheads and Morel as the voice of reason. While Gon's exclusive mini-wing of the hospital is under construction, Leorio attends the open forum for the still ongoing chairman election. He steps up to the podium to ask Ging a very important question. Why hasn't he visited his comatose son? Per usual, Gon's father refuses a straight answer, which grants him a sucker punch to the jaw. The act shoots Leorio to 3rd place in the polls. Killua watches the results on a live stream when he overhears Goto getting a call from Illumi. He realizes that being able to leave with Alluka was merely a power move on Silva's behalf to get one over on Illumi. Speaking of the shady older brother, he and Hisoka watch as the bodyguard's car crashes to separate Alluka and Killua. Their partnership is tested when Hisoka posits the idea of killing Killua to save Gon. The sheer amount of bloodlust Illumi radiates alerts Killua to his older brother's location. He continues to evade the bodyguards who are currently being held back by Hisoka. Goto resolves to take the clown down, which backfires horribly. With Goto dead, the remaining 3 bodyguards chase down the Zoldyck kids on Tsuboni as a motorbike. All parties arrive at an airplane hangar, all planning to take the chase to the skies. Illumi uses his Nen needles to create possessed ground troops. The chaos of their chase collides with the anti-Netero League, crashing the election. The 2 separate manhunts for Killua and Alluka have already led to mass death, mostly from Hisoka and voter distraction. The League U is eventually knocked out of the race, with their candidate mysteriously found dead. As the final round of elections enters yet another revote, Illumi and his Nen zombies surround Killua and Alluka. Tsuboni reveals that she sold the kids out before placing Killua in a wish conundrum by completing Nanika's request, make the wish now to escape or save the wish for Gon. Illumi taunts him with the threat of killing Alluka, which prompts Killua to show his hand. He wishes for Nanika to heal Tsuboni's hand, proving that she's not a murder machine or subhuman. Round 8 of voting begins, and Cheadle enters the open forum with a new fire thanks to a semi-pep talk from Ging. As the eliminated candidates wrap up their exit speeches, Ging reveals that nobody is allowed to leave until a new chairman is elected. The 4 candidates each get a chance to give a speech. However, Leorio decides to derail his campaign. He's riddled with guilt that he's at the podium instead of with Gon, who lies comatose in his private rooftop hospital wing. Killua and Alluka wait there now. Leorio's impassioned speech gives him a lead, nearly tied with the charismatic and probably cheating Pariston. As the final round of voting starts, Nanika heals Gon, causing a blast of energy felt all the way to the Zoldyck estate. This doesn't stop the final debate between the last 2 candidates. While Leorio continues his empathy-based campaign efforts, Pariston swings for the fences and proposes abolishing the hunter exam. Ging and Cheadle realize that Pariston is just seeing what he can get away with, flexing his manipulative capabilities a bit. Just as the election hall begins to descend into chaos, the door flies open as Gon, healthy as ever, walks in. Leorio sprints at full speed, sobbing at the sight of his friend. Unfortunately, for Cheadle at least, this also means that Pariston has effectively won the chair. She interrogates him, convinced he had a hand in manipulating events. He didn't, but his ability to read people and strategize makes it look that way. Most people aren't looking at Cheadle and Pariston's little spat, though. They're looking at Gon and Ging's big reunion. Before a hello can be exchanged, Gon breaks down and apologizes profusely about causing Kite's near death. Ging gives him some tough love, but with some external pressure, promises to meet back up with his son after he apologizes to Kite. When the commotion from this impromptu reunion dies down, Pariston is officially elected as the new chairman of the Hunter Association. He appoints Cheadle as his second in command, then immediately retires from elected office. Outside all the chaos of the election, Illumi catches up to Killua and Alluka. Realizing that Killua is exempt from the limitations and effects of Nanika's abilities, he once again demands control of both of them. Killua has Nanika teleport him back to the mansion as her last wish. This demand doesn't go over well with Iluka, who slaps her brother for making Nanika feel unloved. Killua realizes the hold that Illumi still has on him, this time from trauma rather than his actual power, and tearfully resolves to protect them both. Dark Continent. With Gon healed, yet unable to see Aura or use Nen, and Killua hiding out with Iluka on Whale Island, the ongoing Dark Continent arc needs a new primary character. Enter Kurapika, largely absent from the last few arcs, maintaining his job as a Nostrade family bodyguard. With the power of Emperor Time and his dowsing chain strengthened even further, and his still burning vengeance for those that hold the Kurta eyes, Kurapika is a much different protagonist for the series, but no less satisfying to follow. As the Zodiacs meet for the first time under Cheadle's leadership, they're met with an immediate curveball, the return of Beyond Netero, Isaac's estranged son. He's been charged with leading an expedition to the Dark Continent, a previously off-limits region of the globe filled with beasts even more dangerous than the Chimera Ants. The financier is Nasubi Hui Guo-ro, the leader of the Kakin Empire who is breaking a 200-year-old treaty to finance the trip. His investment in the Dark Continent is twofold. Obviously, the allure of the continent and its hidden riches appeals to him, but the journey there also gives him a chance for an important task, his succession game. Instead of passing down his empire to his eldest child, Nasubi plans to have his 14 legitimate children out-scheme each other for the right to rule the Kakin Empire. While the new Zodiacs don't know about the succession game, pretty much everything else is enough to give them pause, especially since both Pariston and Ging have ditched the Zodiacs to join the expedition. Thanks to some negotiating, both bureaucratically and behind closed doors, the expedition to the Dark Continent is legitimized by the V6 summit, with Beyond supervised by the Zodiacs. This still leaves two open spots in the Zodiacs filled by Leorio, and with the promise of obtaining the last pair of Kurta eyes, Kurapika. His recruitment proves to be invaluable near immediately, since Kurapika is quickly able to sniff out a mole in the Zodiac's ranks. Despite Beyond's lack of cooperation, he isn't lying about having Sayu work for him. With Beyond being a loose cannon, an outflow of sensitive information, and a trip that's just barely sanctioned, the Zodiacs elect to have one of their own join the journey as a spy. Since the various princes, gender neutral, in the succession game have been hiring bodyguards, almost entirely made up of Zodiac rejects, Kurapika is the natural choice. He gets a position for the baby Prince Wobble on the spot, and the Black Whale takes off for the Dark Continent, and the succession game is officially underway, and it starts almost immediately. One of Prince Wobble's guards is found completely drained of blood in a bathroom, with 5 guards found in the same condition not too long after. Kurapika herds the rest of the guards to interrogate them with his dowsing chain. Before his interrogation yields anything, Nen beasts called worm toxins flood the room, but only Kurapika and one other guard can see them. The guard needs to be sedated. The worm toxins fade, proving that the guard's Nen was manipulated to create them. After Kurapika disables the guard's Nen with the syringe on his chain connecting it to Wobble's mother, Queen Oido, the guard is carted off for questioning about the guards found drained of blood. With the human cost of the succession game on display, the 9th Prince of Kakin Halkenberg, Huiguo Rao, formally withdraws from the game. Despite the fact that there's one less competitor for the throne, some of the other Kakin princes are less than enthused about Halkenberg's moral high ground. Notably, the 4th Prince Tseredinich, the owner of the last pair of Kurta eyes, and the 5th Prince Tsubepa. The two plan an alliance, reasoning that most of their half-siblings are too young or unambitious to be serious competition and thus easy prey. The true competitors for the Kakin Empire are themselves and their 3 equally nasty older half-siblings, Benjamin, Camilla, and Zheng Lei. Speaking of, the 3 eldest princes try to have their father reverse his decision to let Halkenberg drop out. They learn more about the intricacies of the guardian beasts, Nen beasts activated at the start of the succession game that prevent the princes from killing each other. However, the Nen beast can kill the prince's guards, but the older princes didn't account for someone like Kurapika on staff. Benjamin, Zheng Lei, and Tsubepa each call him, trying to figure out his deal. He reluctantly agrees to tell Zheng Lei what exactly is happening with the guardian Nen beasts. As he's doing that, Queen Oido puts her new Nen powers to use and spies on the 13th prince, Mariam Hoi Guo-ru. She notes double the guards in the room and an extra Nen beast, that of the 12th prince, Momose. Oibido cries for Kurapika to go check on the prince, much to his annoyance. She wasn't wrong to panic, since Momose is found dead, drained of energy from maintaining her Nen beast and left open to attack. As Oido tries to send another surveillance bug out, Emperor Time finally takes its toll on Kurapika, and he collapses for a cool 18-hour nap. When Kurapika wakes up, it's only the 2nd day of the 2-month voyage. Yikes. Realizing that the various Nen beasts, guardian or otherwise, pose a threat to all the guards, Kurapika calls a meeting to inform the guards about the threats of Nen. All goes smoothly until a small masked figure casts silent majority on one of the attendees sees another of Benjamin's guards. This marionette remains hidden in the crowd, but it claims that only a select few people in the very crowded room can see it. The possessed guard, Kurapika, and Lowberry, who is one of the 10th Prince Kacho's guards. She's the first to notice the marionette, which causes it to activate its nen. This is what drained the blood of all those guards the day prior. Kurapika arrests Lowberry in the chaos, assuming she killed the guard, while she thinks the marionette is Prince Woble's nen beast. They don't have much time to figure out what the deal with the marionette and their blood-draining beast is, since they must go to Prince Mimosa's funeral. However, the sudden appearance of feather marks on some of the guards' hands points to the marionette becoming a much larger problem. Each of the guards with a feather mark is said to share a similar aspiration. The guards aren't the only ones falling into chaos, the princes are as well. Camilla attempts to assassinate Benjamin, but winds up getting gunned down herself. Her nen beast resurrects her, spurring her to go on a rampage until one of Benjamin's guards, the one that first saw the marionette, throws her in a holding cell. While all this chaos is happening on the upper decks, the Phantom Troupe reunites downstairs, sort of. There's a few members missing and one notable member making his return. Prior to the boarding of the Black Whale, Hisoka and Krallo finally had their long-awaited fight at Heaven's Arena. As to be expected from two of the deadliest nen wielders in the series, the fight was destructive-like, leveled a floor of Heaven's Arena and several dozen viewers dead, thanks to Krallo's nen stamps, which look almost the same as the feather marks discovered on the guards on the Black Whale. Krallo leaves the arena relatively unscathed, meeting up with Shalnark to discuss a heist on the Black Whale with all the spiders. Hisoka, at least on first glance, also appears to be dead at the end of the match as Machi rolls him to a makeshift morgue to reattach his limbs. However, by creating a makeshift defibrillator out of bungee gum, the Jester miraculously survived. He's also a sore loser. This is proved when Shalnark finds Kortopi's severed head in a public park bathroom before getting hanged from a tree by bungee gum. Now, on the Black Whale, Machi and Krallo scheme to take out Hisoka before he can take out the rest of the troupe. The troupe, now including Illumi and Kaluto, hides out amongst the stowaways, largely made up of various clans of Nasubi Huiguorao's illegitimate children. They start to come up with a plan to get rid of the Jester permanently. Illumi reveals that he and Hisoka came to an agreement prior to his fight with Krallo at Heaven's Arena. Illumi joined the Phantom Troupe at his request, and he'll get paid if he's the one to kill Hisoka. Franklin realizes that the mob families could be an asset in killing Hisoka, so they plan to make a tentative alliance with either the Shiyus, who also want to bleed the Kaken Empire dry, or the murderous Char Rs. They might have an easier time recruiting a gang than they thought, since they're currently being watched by a lanky murderer, Luini of the Hyley family. Luini is hiding in the vents as he's being hunted for the murder of several more guards. Finks, Nobunaga, and Phaeton find the aftermath of those in the back halls of the lower decks. Mizaistom interviews the sole witness to the latest murder, who turns out to be another Hyley member working with Luini. He assumes the various cases of murder were spurred by the occult elements of the Succession game and could cause the whole ship to descend into chaos. On the bottom decks, the assumed goal is agitating the Char R gang. They know Nen is involved and thus have motive to link up with the Phantom Troupe. Nobunaga, Finks, and Phaeton are taken to meet with another Char R higher up, Kenny, at their headquarters. They're also recruited to help find who killed their guard. The search for the various killers extends shipwide, placing the ship into temporary lockdown. While checking for tickets, Mizaistom makes two big discoveries. First, the whole Phantom Troupe is on the ship, which Kurapika is unaware of. Second, there's a mysterious figure in a black hood without a ticket. He calls for a gag custody order, realizing the figure is the 11th Prince Fugetsu. He attempts an interrogation, trying to figure out why she was out of her room, but she'll only spill to her older twin Kacho. Mizaistom and Melody, who is temporarily guarding Kacho, figure they're trying to escape the ship, which is a big no-no. With 76 hours until the ship's first big banquet, she prays no more contingencies or further investigations are required. This wish is futile since Kaken Soldier Rion finds Prince Saleh Saleh recklessly using his Nen Beast and releases his ability Predator to kill the beast. The lockdown is lifted and Halkenberg takes the chance to meet with his father. He demands, gun in hand, that the Succession game is suspended. When he's told no, he fails at attempting to end first his father, then himself. He rages around the ship to the eldest prince, shaking it with aura as Saleh Saleh is found asphyxiating right as the banquet begins. Melody waits to the side, trying to assess the threat risk. She waits for her turn to perform as Kacho and Fugetsu begin listening to their own portable music players. Melody's enchanting flute allows them to escape to the lifeboats. They promise to never be separated again. Kacho realizes that the exit is a death trap and throws Fugetsu out of harm's way, resulting in her death. The current standing is 2 competitors dead, one on the brink and one non-competing. It seems like the death toll will not stop there. Thanks to his Nen training, Seriadnik's control over his Nen beast has strengthened considerably. He's also got a strong hold over Zetsu, able to manipulate senses, perception, and read their inner thoughts. Additionally, Halkenberg accidentally discovered Nen arrows by shooting a guard with one during his rage after his failed negotiation with his father. He and his guards try to figure out what exactly they do. Both are well ahead of the guards Kurapika is trying to train. He decides to only focus on 2 guards, Bill and Mayor, to teach all the intricacies of Nen. The lesson is interrupted from another rumbling of aura, presumably from Halkenberg. It also interrupts a strategy meeting between Benjamin and Zhang Lei before they learn that their younger half-sibling has been arrested. Camilla is still in holding too, leaving her guards to be scrambled to other princes. The chaos extends to the lower tiers of the ship as well. Another crew, the Have-Nots, have also begun making power moves. Their Yomotsu Hegui ability acts like the tape from the ring, meaning that a string of mass deaths is threatening to strike the lower decks. The Heelais are well prepped to join the Mafia wars in the search for Hisoka. Some of its members have the power to manipulate blood into weaponry, intensify interrogation, or turn their hand into a demolition-grade hammer. That last guy, Padile, is quickly subdued by a former deceased Shiyu member latches onto his back. Her post-mortem Nen overwhelms him, making him her puppet. Meanwhile, the Char R and Phantom Troupe try to figure each other out. This has cut down on their time to find Hisoka, who has already collided with the High Elise.